Yes, it is.
It's like COVID time.
Well, Pete just asked me that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board in our new town hall, renovated town hall. So we have a different sound system, different media system, but we're still, if you look, the exits are still over to the left, and you'd have to go that way or that way, I believe, to get out. Please join me as we salute the American flag. Oh, on TV.
So we're here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get to the first item on the agenda, I just wanted to mention the sad passing of Donna McGrogan. Donna was our town clerk for 20 years and a wonderful person to work with a kind and generous heart. And she also made sure that any communication that needed to be done between the town board and the planning board was always instant and effective. We join in sympathy with her husband as well. So thank you. The first item on the agenda tonight is public hearing for a grounded dispensary. The applicants are seeking site plan approval to renovate an existing structure, turn it into a cannabis retail dispensary. And one of our vice chairs is joining us tonight, so I'll pause for a second. At any rate, since this has been discussed extensively in workshop, the planning board did a secret determination early on that there would be no negative impacts the way it was typed, but the applicants, in an abundance of caution, in advance prepared a traffic impact study which was referred over to the Department of Transportation. The Department of Transportation, just so everyone knows, found that there would be no significant traffic impacts to the existing roadway system because it's a 4-lane highway in through that area. Basically that was it, and also they loved the idea that you relocated the driveway back further into the rear area as well, because that also promotes a longer area for people to drive into, so it keeps it safer as well. That noted, we also received revised elevations for the building since we last met. And that's about my last of the summary of it, although it's located at 3665 Albany Post Road across from the Southern Stewards. I'd like a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to say something?
You're up.
So I'm Richard Barone, my son Frank. We're partners in opening Grounded Dispensary. It's going to be, it's been a long haul, but I think we've all agreed to a great design. Something's going to look fantastic on Route 9 there. And we're also planning to outfit the interior just as nice. It really is going to be an upscale place. It's going to be a place where people can come in, learn about cannabis, the benefits of cannabis, and having that education and having that safe and welcoming environment where we're going to have legal products that have been tested is very important for the community, and that's what we're going to strive to do. And so we're looking forward to an approval.
Thank you. Can you? I was going to say, can you scroll down to the elevation so people at home can take a look at it?
Changing the front facade. We're changing all the sides. It's going to be a black wood with a brown wood combination, and all parking, as Chairman said, is going to all be behind the building with access off of River Point Road. And the front and south yards and, let's say, east yards are all going to be green areas with a sidewalk that's going to go around the building. Well lit, safe, and well guarded with security cameras 24/7 all over the place, as mandated by the state.
Just a reminder that the applicants, once they're through this board, if they receive an approval, still have to go back to the town board for a special use permit, as you know. I prepared a letter to go to the town board recommending that they grant the special use permit. It's shorter than the usual letters we send, but there's a reason, and that's because the town board will need to be the one to make sure that they meet all the conditions that are in the special dispensary, I'll call it, use permit, as well as the 6 criteria for the special use permit, for any special use permit. The second point I made is that because we've looked at traffic extensively, including their traffic impact study, we believe that the use is not going to cause significant congestion, et cetera, one of the requirements, but that they will do the rest. Comments from the consultants? Ms. Moss?
No.
Mr. Sotero?
All my prior engineering comments were addressed. There's just one minor item that I talked to the engineer about, and that's just the discharge for the roof leaders. But assuming the board's going to take action tonight, that is one of the conditions that be shown on the site plan. So other than that, engineering-wise, we're good.
Thank you, Pete. Ms. Polidoro?
If the board is ready to act tonight, we do have a resolution prepared to grant conditional approval. One of the items of discussion, right now the resolution is conditioned upon the sidewalk being added. I know that was a discussion item from the last meeting, and so it's here as a placeholder for continued discussion. And then there are 11 other conditions.
Victoria, can you get into your microphone a little more?
Oh, hi.
There you go.
Do I need to repeat?
For the television viewing audience, vast as it is.
I was stating that as drafted, there are 12 conditions, including a condition about a sidewalk, which was a carryover from the discussion at the last meeting. Depending on how the board addresses it, we can modify, but I wanted to let you know that this was on there.
As I mentioned to the applicant, if there's a majority of the board that does not want the sidewalk, then we'll just strike that as a condition at the dais.
And we would have to modify slightly to make the findings about why.
Oh, correct.
Or we can make them on the record.
That's what I was going to say. All
Yes.
right. Let me start from my left. Mr. Tuttle?
So we talked about the sidewalk last time, and we're aware that if a sidewalk gets constructed here, for the immediate future, it will be a fragment. It won't connect to anything. We also know that the engineering to the south of this site would be very, very difficult. It's very unlikely that a sidewalk would be able to extend to the south. I spent quite a bit of time with this after our last meeting. And the conclusion that I've come to is that given the proximity of this site to CIA, to Belfield, given what seems like a likelihood that the neighboring site is going to be redeveloped in some way or could be redeveloped in some way in the near future, that a sidewalk makes sense here. It makes sense to get this started now, to have this sidewalk started here, and then eventually to continue it up to where there will likely be people walking, students walking from CIA. I should mention, as I did last time, we know there's been fatalities on the road, and there is a pedestrian safety issue that to me can be exacerbated by a use that is likely to attract students coming down from CIA and residents eventually from Belfield as well. So I'm going to vote in favor of a sidewalk. I think that's my only comment tonight.
Thank you, Dylan. Mr. Waters?
Regarding the sidewalks, I kind of agree a little bit with that after thinking about it, that right now there doesn't seem to be a connection, but in the future there could be. And that's the problem then, because if it doesn't start somewhere, where does it start?
And I think all of us were probably thinking about the weird connection trying to go to the south because
Yes.
of the
Yes.
the water, et cetera. But it wasn't until I started thinking about on the northern side, because I'd heard that, I read about the discussion, but I looked at the northern side and thought there could easily be CIA students coming down here. Many of them already walk up, along the Route 9 itself to get over to the grocery store. So there's a lot that don't have cars, and so it seems to be that there's at least a beginning of a way to make it safer. And they can go through the parking lot right now, I believe, of Planet Fitness, and then just pop across to get onto the real sidewalk.
If I may, Chairman,
Yes,
there was also some discussion last time as to whether the other side of the road would be more appropriate for a sidewalk. Taking another look at that and looking at some of the slopes on that side to the north, there is actually a difficult section that it would be more difficult to build a sidewalk on that side of the road heading north than it would be on this side.
The regrading would be substantial. I agree.
And then the last thing was, I wanted to thank the applicants for listening on the design issues, and that was greatly appreciated, and I think you got yourself a nice building. Sorry, appreciate it.
Very much so.
Can I make a comment on
Of
the
course.
sidewalk? We'd agree to put one in later for sure, if it was, mandated that we connect to whatever's going north. That's all fine.
It is
If-
on the site plan as well.
Yeah.
That's how we put it.
Yeah. Where would we put the sidewalk? because we can't build in the DOT right away.
No, you do put the sidewalk in
Yeah,
the DOT
you
right
can.
of way. Yes, DOT has yelled at me several times
Ah.
for making sidewalks not in the DOT right of way.
Ah, okay.
You can ask
prefer
Mr.
it.
Zarin, that's one of the projects. If we put the sidewalk that's in the Sake Brewery in the DOT right of way,
Mhm.
it would be right along the road on the west side of the stone wall,
Okay.
which didn't seem safe, so we had them put it where it did. There was also another reason. They were asking for substantial four-corner intersection improvements, meaning pedestrian crossings at all four if the sidewalk went in the right-of-way all the way to the road. And since there's no development proposed right now on the other side, we said we'll wait until something else happens along and through here, which it will be, NRI Hotel will be doing those improvements now, because that's a hotel where people will be walking back and forth. So at any rate, but yes, it would go in the DOT right-of-way. It's a work permit that costs some amount of money, and there's standards for the sidewalks. Tad, were you going to say something? Oh, the look on your face.
Would we have to put a curb cut there to cross the other side with
It'll be a curb cut with a little raised, it's for,
the handicap?
yes.
Right, pad?
this is for visually impaired, I believe, so they know that they're at a corner by the
Right.
raised dots on the little sidewalk.
Right. And that would have to be
Yeah,
implemented?
the condition, I think, is written so that
Yes.
it's to the satisfaction of the town engineer, or planning
Be
engineer.
approved by the planning board engineer, so you'd work with Pete
Yeah.
on the exact location.
Well, yeah, so I was just looking at that. If it's going to be on their own property, then we need an easement. I'm not sure that
And
it
that's what
can
it
be on
says
their
here.
own property, but if it's within the DOT right away, then they have to go get approval from the DOT, obviously.
As I said, the DOT's been yelling at me for not putting sidewalks in there right
And we
away.
don't want them to yell at you anymore.
That was a few years ago.
You
There
might
might
as
be
well,
different
I mean,
people,
you
and
might
they
as
might
well
not
go
be
get,
yelling.
we might as well get it out of their
They
system.
can yell all they want to. I have rhinoceros skin after 18 years up here. Don't worry.
Could we connect our the proposed sidewalk to the River Point Road?
That's where it will kind of start in Nowheresville, but then it'll go to River Point Road.
We'd
So
be the end
you're-
we'd be the end of the sidewalk.
You're suggesting that it would come up from that corner, be a short
Yeah.
stretch that would kind of go up the hill
Right.
to to the walkway around the building that's
Right.
already proposed?
Right.
Instead of the frontage?
Well, because-
Instead of along the frontage.
It ruins our whole green concept that we were looking for, and all that.
Can you show us where you're talking about on the map? The site plan? Yes, right there, where you're thinking about it?
Take the walkabout map, Mike, with you if you're going to go up.
Hello. So I'm thinking if you take it off of here and swing it to River Road, maybe to here even. Boom.
And then connect to the sidewalk that's already proposed.
I mean, this is going to be a 6-foot sidewalk.
Yeah, but he's-
I'd suggest you might have trouble meeting ADA on that.
The slope?
There's a bit of a slope there going up to that, and would still be in DOT right of way for that piece, and they would require it to be an ADA slope. The other thing is that you're the last property on the sidewalk now, but there are a couple properties
Yeah, I
to the
was going to
south
say,
that are
right, I
event
was
that
going to say,
should be.
there are two more
There are.
properties to the south, and if they ever come before, the planning board, then obviously the consideration would be to have them put in a sidewalk that would at least tie those two southern properties to this one.
I wouldn't imagine anybody walking to those two properties, but
Well,
certainly to ours.
remember when you're planning, you're thinking about sort of the future as well?
Yeah.
Because the business located just to the north of you, Planet Fitness, we understand may be relocating.
Yeah.
So there'll be a different use, and depending on what that use is, it could be something that has lots of people who will want to walk right across the street to get to you. The same thing will happen down with the chimney cleaner.
Yeah.
They've
Right.
had, I believe, rented out, or they've tried to find other tenants for the big space.
Gotcha.
And who's there, I mean, I think you're going to be a big draw, let me be honest with you. And people who work down there may be popping over for lunch. I mean, using lunchtime.
Lunch, after lunch.
Just couldn't we,
I'm sorry, I meant lunchtime to go peruse your products.
couldn't we just condition it to, we will do it once one of the neighboring properties is coming in?
One more time, there's no way to legally enforce that. There's no trigger we have to say, hey, it's time for you to do it now. In other words, you can go back on your word, and there's nothing that we could really do with the courts systems. So it has to be done now. Victoria's thinking.
So I was thinking that is the cannabis license renewed annually?
The special use permit?
It's 3 years? I mean, I suppose we could say,
Tie
I'm
it to
just talking this through.
Right,
This is the first time
right.
we've ever done this. We could try to link it to the renewal of the special use permit because that has to come in. There is a trigger if they last for more than 3 years.
So,
We could say it either has to be done within 3 years before the special use permit is renewed, which would give them,
Upon renewal, time to get it.
no, we want the trigger, we need to give it leverage, right? It has to be, I would say, before renewal, right? But,
They wouldn't be coming before this board.
correct,
right?
that's what I was going to
no, we
say.
would write it into the resolution, and then it would be a condition that we would recommend that the town board put on the renewal of the permit.
It would be a recommendation to the town board, not a.
True.
That's
that'd be
right,
a
because we can't
recommendation.
bind another agency's hands that way.
That's correct.
So that's something for the board to consider, but that would give you 3 years' time.
We would appreciate that because we really just don't want to have to go back to DOT and get a new permit. That's the time wasting. That we have been just stalled and delayed for far too long. That's the
I'm
issue.
sorry.
I mean, we don't mind putting the sidewalk.
I've heard you,
in.
I hear you loud and clear on that one, so I think that sounds reasonable to me.
But, I mean, we don't have control. If the town board does
Right.
not put that as a condition, then it's lost.
Can we request it as a condition?
So, wait, could we say, let's see.
We don't mind doing it.
One of the conditions right now is issuance, approval of a retail cannabis special use permit from the town board.
Yep.
I mean, we could try to say approval of a retail cannabis special use permit from the town board that is conditioned upon the sidewalk being installed before the next renewal period. But, again, it's hard to force their hand.
Ms. Moss hates it when I say this, but could it be conditioned on issuance of the, never mind.
Don't even
When we post a bond or something.
Different, but I can't find it right now. I'll keep looking.
Let me continue on then. Ms. Dexter.
All good points. I had not been thinking about the north at all. I'd been focusing on Heritage.
Yep, Hudson Heritage.
Hudson Heritage and everything south. But yeah, you could be the next to the third next to last dead end because there's no way to go across the stream, and we talked about all of that. but
There
we
could be,
didn't-
it'd have to be government grant money doing
Right.
something like an
And it
open
could be
span
that,
area.
10 years from now, when Hudson Heritage is all built out, that they see the need and there would be grants and everything. But I don't know, I like your thought because it's not there now, and whatever goes into Planet Fitness is not here yet. And I don't know, if there is a way to tie it, I'd like that.
Anything else?
No, and I don't care if it's in the right of way or not.
My usual attitude. Mr. Oliver.
So I'll start off with the new building structure. I like it. Yeah, I like the improvements. Regarding the sidewalk, so one of the things that I was always taught in college was that for sidewalks, you almost need to wait a little bit because people are going to always take the path of least resistance, and you're going to see where like the cow trail is, right? So if I kind of think down the road, as knowing you as a business owner and the type of business that you're going to be doing in the front of the building that you want to present to Route 9, if you start seeing cow paths all over your nice green space, I think you're going to take the initiative and put a sidewalk in. I just got to figure out, see how you can figure out to do it down the road. I don't see a need for it at the moment, but I think in the future, if the need is there, you're going to want it there anyway.
So they could theoretically come to us for a site plan amendment to put in a sidewalk.
I mean, well, let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Sidewalks are very expensive, and so
Yes.
it's hard to imagine someone voluntarily putting in the ADA compliant sidewalk. I mean, a walking path, sure, but that is,
We're not opposed to putting the sidewalk. We're
No, I
opposed to the
I
process
understand,
that
so
it'll take to get
we're
there.
trying to get away so that you're not delayed by,
Trying to buy you time. something
yeah,
like
by
that.
DOT. By DOT. Thank you,
That's
Chris. Mr. Curcio?
I think everybody's making good points. Michael, you know, I didn't really, you know, the culinary is probably going to have a lot of kids that are going to walk down there. I see them walking on 9 all the
Yep.
time.
Yep.
I also know that sidewalks are really expensive, and that sidewalk is going nowhere to nowheres. I'd like to see us find a way to delay it, but doesn't really seem like there's a way to delay it, right?
It needs to be, so we can make the recommendation to the town board.
You know, but
And you
I
can
don't-
add the language in there, but they could ignore that.
Michael,
Because-
would it be as simple as a work permit with the state, or do they have to actually get an approval in the right of way?
I think it's a permit, but.
It's just
The work permit is-
They have to, they're gonna have to show it on a plan and.
Yeah, I mean,
And, yeah, so it's gonna be a process. Not just like when we did street trees and getting a work permit.
no, it's different than that. They'll make sure that the construction
engineering.
details fit with the DOT profile, et cetera. So it sounds as though there's a majority of the board that would like to move this as a condition, Victoria. A majority of the board, I believe, would like to move this as a condition to the reissuance, we'll call it, of the special use permit. This way, if the town board acts and gives them the special use permit, that's also a condition of approval, of our approval.
Then I would recommend we change 10 to say that is conditioned upon installation of a sidewalk before the next renewal period, giving it a little teeth. And then 3, we'd add a note that says to be constructed before next special use
Well,
permit renewal.
and it should say subject to, do we have subject to DOT approval? Somewhere's in there, because I just thought about, because we were talking about like ADA, it's not gonna be an ADA compliant, sidewalk, because, you know, the slope of, you know, the road, you know, of 9 is way more than 5%. And I'm trying to think of a couple of the ADA sidewalks that we've done with DOT, they're very conscious of being ADA compliant, and so I don't even know that they would even like approve this because of the, you know, the longitudinal slope. I don't know, I mean,
The only
should
way would
just-
be to.
so that's why I said if we just say subject to DOT approval, and if DOT doesn't approve it for whatever reason, then
They'll be able to bring that information to the
they're
town
off
board at the time.
Right.
Yes. So,
No, I mean, I know what you're
We're
saying.
trying to get it done, just not right this second.
any other comments from the board? We have a member of the public who signed up to speak. Frank and Richard, do you mind giving up the microphone for a moment to Gabrielle Lee? Sorry, my voice. Ms. Lee is a neighbor on River Point Road.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. My name is Gabrielle Lee. I live at 12 River Point Road. We've been there for 15 years. I just wanted to come and show my support. I think that it's a great idea. And also, I do, because I took a picture for you today. The site has been derelict.
Ah.
And back and forth. There's literally a shopping cart that's been there for 3 weeks. And I take my little golf cart up and down that road and pick up garbage all the time and all the rest, and thank you. And I just wanted to come and show my support for you guys. I think it would be a great idea. And I'm within that 150 feet. I got that letter in the mail, and so here I am.
I want to personally thank you for coming up, because we don't normally hear support. We often hear complaints instead.
I thought that might be the case, hence why I'm here.
But it's also different, when people don't show up, they usually they're not upset, they're actually okay with it. They just forget to say, hey, this is a good idea. To us, you probably can't tell on the elevation just in black and white, but this is a significant improvement of the appearance of.
Significant improvement.
Also, the landscaping that's going to be installed will be better. It'll also, the stormwater management will be better. It'll cause less flooding.
I mean, that would be wonderful.
Well, and then if the Planet Fitness, I mean, when they move, if they move, apparently they are going to move, when whoever takes over that building, then that's going to follow through with
Better design as well.
improving.
More thrills.
Oh, you don't like the purple and yellow?
I mean, everyone has to work out.
There may be a position open on the planning board come January. You think I'm joking? And we're always looking to make sure that we stay a diversified board, and we're low on women right now, put it that way. So if you're interested in making an application to the town board, please do. You think I'm joking? I'm not. You took the time to come out?
I do have an architecture degree.
Oh, man.
Wow.
In any case, that's it for me tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
for coming out.
We appreciate your
Name and
comments.
phone number after the meeting. Thank you very much.
Would anyone else from the public like to speak about this application? There being none, we get a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries. The resolution's been revised, so we have to wait for Victoria to bring it up here.
Yeah,
Oh.
good.
Hold on.
Because I was going to say, I
So-
can't write everything she just said.
Our zoning administrator,
Okay.
Oh, she found it.
our zoning administrator says, okay, she found language in the law that says application for renewal of retail cannabis special use permit shall be subject to the same requirements and review standards as applications for retail cannabis special use permit. And it's your interpretation that this would
Yeah,
require
get
site
site
plan
plan
approval
approval.
again?
Oh,
So they're gonna have to come back for a recheck of the site plan every 3 years.
right.
At this
No,
point.
there's not gonna be any changes, but
Well,
they're
don't-
gonna.
Well, that's all right. So then you would, if
Effectively dust off.
they would incorporate the sidewalk thing, right?
I'm not a lawyer either, it's not.
Wait, we have an attorney. She's looking askance.
I'm saying it's an
Well,
interpretation, and right now Tad's interpretation rules.
We
So-
don't do special use permits without site plan, so that's probably where she's.
Yeah,
Right,
all special use permits require site plan.
so
And
maybe
that's
we,
why we're going through site plan.
maybe we add a whereas clause that says shall renew the site, shall apply for site plan approval, reapply in 3 years in order to renew the retail cannabis permit?
Well, what I would imagine this would be, unless
Well,
there's
that
been
should be-
substantial changes to the site that were unapproved, Ms. Moss and General would recommend a waiver of site plan for something where it already exists and hasn't changed
Unless
much.
we're gonna
Except
add
for the sidewalk.
Right.
Right.
So maybe we can make it a condition, sorry, I need a, I'm just thinking aloud. We could say, be further resolved that prior to the planning board reapproving the site plan, in conjunction with the renewal of the retail cannabis special use permit, the applicant shall install a sidewalk?
If with DOT, with DOT approval.
Subject to DOT approval.
Right, right. That's a long whereas.
Okay.
Tad,
I try,
business friendly. That was good.
I try.
That was good.
Get it, but I try.
There's actually a way now to require it legally, and yet at the same time, it gives you,
No problem.
We'll go through the process later.
Well, you might want to start now, because DOT.
Yeah, right.
if the DOT, I like Lance, if DOT knew how we sometimes talk about them here, it's not their fault. No,
Everybody talks about them that way, though.
They do. They're understaffed.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
And no offense, one of your departments is understaffed too, Department of Behavioral and Community Health.
Yep.
There's a desperate dearth of engineers around in the county, and it
The,
causes problems.
Sorry, question. The renewal of the special use permit, what kind, are we talking all fees, escrow, everything all over again, or are we just talking
Well,
Not if it's already-
for this,
a review for a renewal?
I mean,
I mean, since
depends
nobody,
on where we end up. I
Yeah.
don't know where we're gonna be in 3 years.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I don't know.
in other words, if you're not making changes,
Mhm.
then big structural changes.
I don't know what the fee schedule says about a renewal permit, and the fee schedule might not have been updated yet.
Probably
to-
not.
To consider like a renewal permit fee.
Gotcha.
And often the planning board waives, if there's no changes, they can waive most of the requirements of site plan approval. So
Got it.
I think it's premature to
Okay.
have that kind of discussion.
Fair enough.
But
Remember,
Thank
you guys are on the bleeding edge here.
Yes,
Yeah.
we know. We're the pioneers.
that is true. Who has this resolution?
I do.
Oh, thanks.
Well, actually, Victoria does. Whatever I have is old.
So do we want
Outdated.
the design of the sidewalk on this plan set, or take it off because it's not going to be designed right now?
I think take it off.
Okay.
It'll still be
Well,
subject.
the one up by the building you can have.
No, no,
Well,
I'm,
yeah, just,
okay.
Yes.
So I'm taking off 3.
They have to move the note. We still have to revisions to remove the note for the location.
Right, okay, so we do need to remove the note.
And remember, DOT may have their own opinion about the location itself,
Right.
just based on the grade and the slope.
Okay, so do you want to, just give me one more minute, please.
So we would keep 3, right, with the,
Only the first
For the-
sentence
yes,
is 3,
yeah.
yeah.
Up till sidewalk. The first sentence. Maybe Victoria should read the conditions in when we get to them.
This is what happens when Victoria doesn't bring her laptop.
Yeah, of course, the one day.
By the way, I was able to watch the last meeting on the town's YouTube channel. Thank you, Ann, and thank you, colleagues. Great meeting.
it was a great meeting.
It really was.
Yeah. Maybe it was that nice firehouse that we were in. That was
If you
a
haven't-
nice space. It was very nice.
It's a very nice
Okay.
space. If you haven't heard, by the way, if you try to watch the last town board meeting held there, there's no sound whatsoever. Zero.
Oh,
Okay, and, so
Yes.
condition 3 is revision of the site plan set to remove the note reserved for future sidewalk if and when directed by the town and be constructed by applicant, period.
okay.
Everything else deleted, and then I will read the last.
The
clause
last,
when we get
number
there.
13?
Yeah, I also added a sentence to 10, or a clause to 10.
Yep.
Approval of retail cannabis special use permit from the Town of Hyde Park Town Board that is conditioned upon installation of a sidewalk before the next renewal period, comma, subject to DOT approval. And then I'll read the last clause when you get there.
And I'll let you read 10, too. Because all I
You
got
went
was
very fast.
Oh, yeah, okay,
conditioned on sidewalk. That's all I got.
okay.
All right. Okay, so. Town of Hyde Park Planning Board resolution to grant conditional site plan approval to Grounded Dispensary, August 7th, 2024, resolution number 2023-73B. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby relaxes the requirements of section 108-24.2F2B to permit a maximum letter height of 12-inch letters for the grounded wall sign as depicted in the site plan set based on the design speed of the 4-lane road used for access and the distance of the building from the road. Be it further resolved that the planning board hereby approves the site plan set and authorizes the chair or his authorized designee to sign the site plan set after compliance with the following conditions. 1, payment of all fees in escrow. 2, revision of site plan set to include sheet numbering X of X on each sheet. 3, revision of the site plan set to remove the note reserved for future sidewalk if or when directed by town to be constructed by applicant. 4, revision of the site plan set to add the following note to sheet C-101. At the time of site plan approval, no other retail cannabis use exists within 1 mile of the property. 5, revision of the C-101 to add shall be maintained as screening and replaced as necessary after mature trees, open paren, evergreen, and deciduous, closed paren, on the western property boundary with the residential lot. 6, revision of note 2 on sheet C-101 to include a second sentence to state as follows: no substitutions to the landscaping vegetation are allowed without approval from the zoning administrator or planning board as deemed necessary by the zoning administrator. 7, revision of the fence detail on sheet C-101 to substitute a fence that is opaque to be approved by the planner to the planning board. 8, revision of sheet C-101 to amend the note referring to the wall on the southern property boundary to read as follows: wooden retaining wall is existing and is neither reviewed nor approved by the planning board as part of this site plan. 9, revision of sheet C-102 to remove the picture of the drop lens. 10, approval of a retail cannabis special use permit from the Hyde Park Town Board, and
That is conditioned upon installation of a sidewalk before the next renewal period, comma, subject to DOT approval.
11, approval by the Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health of the methods of water supply and sewage disposal. 12, approval by the planning board engineer of a solution to roof leader drainage pipe infiltration method and addition of same to site plan set. 13,
Oh, so this is, keep going, it's gonna be another resolve clause.
oh, okay. Be it further resolved, no 13, be it further resolved that the planning board hereby recommends the issuance of a retail cannabis special use permit once the town board has determined that all requirements of section 108-8.6 have been satisfied, and authorizes the chairman to send a letter to the town board indicating same.
Okay, be it further resolved that prior to the planning board approving or waiving approval of the site plan in connection with any renewal of the retail cannabis special use permit, the applicant shall have installed an ADA compliant sidewalk in a location approved by the town engineer and DOT, or provide evidence that DOT will not allow such sidewalk.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. It's been a pleasure working with you guys, because if nothing else has been amusing, I promise you, the whole way through, so thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Lee, you put your telephone number here. Would you mind if I contacted you to seriously discuss perhaps making an application to be on the board? Thank you very much. And again, we appreciate you coming out
Yes, thank
this
you.
evening.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll get the letter off to the town board tomorrow.
Oh,
I'll tell you what, that's a nice sheet that is all by itself.
The next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for Crofton Muse. The applicants are seeking special use permit approval and the extension of the site plan deadlines to complete substantial construction. This request was made timely, but we've been going through a lot of drama here as we go. I noticed that we just received comments from DOT.
Not comments, you got a conditional approval.
No, conceptual approval, not conditional, conceptual. But they still want more information from you. I don't even understand why.
They want me to give them basically construction drawings to get the permit.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let me turn it over to you, Mr.
All right, well, Lou Scoutman for the applicant. I just wanted to point out, now that you've given approval for the cannabis retail dispensary, I'm going to have to look into a pizza joint next door or something. I meant a pizza retail dispensary, I'm sorry. Anyhow, yeah, so as Mr. Dupree pointed out, we did finally get a positive comment from DOT. DEC is finishing up their review. I just wanted to confirm that there's no significant additional disturbance based upon our widening of Route 9G. That happens to be the case. We're just preparing the report now, so that should put that in place. The turtles are well cared for, I can assure you. So we're in a pretty good position. I was hoping that we might be able to get an approval from this board, because we're in a catch-22, because they're looking to you guys in order for me to send, like Jason Teed, who reviews it for the Department of Health, he's waiting for you to act so he can take a look at it, and this one needs that to take a look at that, and you know, being that this project has been kicking around for so long, and we have, I think, improved the design and decreased on the environmental impacts, and I think it's a much more positive.
I believe we were still waiting for some answers to questions about the bridge. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, Lou had dropped off plans last Friday. I haven't had a chance to look at them. I have them here. I'm going to try to start looking at them tomorrow. But I don't think there was any change.
I didn't give you the bridge plans there.
Right.
No, I was trying to have you focus on just the civil drawings for now. But I understand you I needed confirmation from our engineer that some of the comments that were previously provided are in those plans, which I can do.
Well, no, I mean, I can use the markups and just, you gave me the markups back, so I mean, that's fine. I wouldn't make any changes to the bridge plans until Have you got any comments from the water authority on hanging the bridge, or hanging the bridge?
Well, they're
Hanging
considering.
the water line. The water line on the
They're gonna
bridge.
they're gonna go down to the dispensary, and then they're gonna go hang up on our bridge.
You've been talking quite a bit about the dispensary.
Do a little
tonight.
fishing. Anyhow, we have an MOU that's been in place that, it's not terminable and it's
Yeah, no, I don't think-
assignable, so.
I don't think there's an
I mean,
issue there.
They're trying, there's a couple of issues that they would like to revisit. There's a reimbursement clause for the line that's in.
Right, that's right.
And there's also, they haven't told us what they want to do, whether they want to go under the creek or they want to go hang the main on the bridge. Eventually, we're just going to tell them, look, the plans provided originally for, hanging it on the bridge, that's what our
Yeah, I
bridge
thought that
shows.
when we
So
met
that's
here,
what I'm
they-
going to do. We'll just do it that way,
I thought that they were okay with hanging it on the bridge, weren't they?
They
when we
said
met?
that, but they're still fiddling around and they're trying to figure out now they have time bond doing a cost estimate. I can't wait forever while they do that. So I'm going to listen, you can use it or not. I'm going to give you what we have in our plans, which is the ability to hang it on the bridge. So,
What was,
they like
I'm
to,
sorry.
they've been delaying me. I've been trying to get the water line tested for a year and a half. They said, we don't even want to talk to you till we finish Jeffrey Groves. They're two separate owners. I don't know why they were linking it, but now I want to test the line, which is something I want to bring up to the board tonight, just give you a heads up on. But I'm trying to get to a point where maybe the board would see fit to give me some kind of conditional approval so I can get at least Jason Teed
I think
started.
Yeah, what was the Jason T? I guess
He doesn't
I don't know.
want to look at the plans until he knows you guys have approved.
I'll talk to him because and I'm not, trust me, I'm not saying he didn't say that to you, but I'll give him a call tomorrow. We work very, very well together, with Jason, and we did reaffirm seeker, so that's usually what they want before they'll continue the review, but I'll tell them that we're rounding third base coming for home here,
Right.
and
So don't tag me out. What I did want to say, when you talk to him, tell him that the three of us, that we have to get together. He's debating how to get, phasing in for the water line and whether he was saying you'd have to put the whole water line in for the entire project, and we'd like to have it done as the phases. So, I'm not fiddling around with the far end of the property when I only need the water there, but that's a discussion that you'll have with Jason.
well, I'll talk to him tomorrow, but then perhaps we'll need to,
together.
your group, me, and
Yeah.
then we'll need to get on the phone or on like
Absolutely.
Zoom or something and,
Yeah,
hash it
well, I
out.
just mentioned that, I
I'll
brought that
I'll
up,
call him. I'll
and
call
we
him
should
tomorrow.
meet together on that.
I'll call him tomorrow.
On that note, with the water line, so we want to test the water line, so there's a couple of things we want to do. We want to ensure, there's a couple of conflicts between pipes, so I want to ensure that where the water main crosses other utilities, there's sufficient space, which I doubt there is, or that they're encased, which is a critical issue. So we're going to probably expose that and see, if it was done right, and if not, we'll bring you guys in and we'll do it right. So, but I just wanted to let the board know we'd like to do that now and, get that part done. And being that there's really no clearing because that was all cleared when the pipe was installed. So, we were planning to get that done. And then
Just let us know when, so in case somebody calls and said, hey, they're out there, starting, the projects.
Right.
Just let us know, because this is similar to the Enclave, that, when they were out, the project sat, the water mains, the sewer mains, they had to go out and do the same thing. They had to do some digging to verify, and that was okay.
Okay.
So just let us know when you're gonna do that
Not a
stuff.
problem, not a problem. I just wanted to give you a heads up so that you don't think we're fiddling around out there without, building the buildings yet, so we're good to go with that. And if the board would see clear, I saw that, Bonnie gave us back some very specific things. We're going to address those right away. And Dominic, our engineer, and Pete will, you know.
Yeah, our stuff's not that difficult.
Okay,
We'll
good.
get there.
So I'm getting that done, and maybe if the board would see clear to give us some kind of approval at the next meeting, that would be
We're
three.
just waiting to hear from the consultants that it's ready to go, basically.
All right.
I think we've solved not all the problems, let me rephrase that. You still have some other agencies to deal with, but we got through the bridge issue, and we've gotten through all the significant ones, so Pete still has some, like I said, his bridge review, I'll call it, had some very specific things, but they didn't seem huge to me either, so it was just information not being the same, not tracking the same between two sites, and they had questions about, I think, they had questions about some, during the dewatering.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about that, you know, the dewatering,
I mean, in
and
the creek.
we'll talk about it again, but,
Well, that's a condition of the DEP approval as well, that, DEC, I'm sorry, wrong state. That, you know, before they will allow us to mobilize, we have to give them a plan on how to protect the creek. So, well, that's going to be done. The other thing, this is a little more personal to our company, is, you know, we've been a little busy up here, and, you know, we're doing well, as you guys, everybody that's seen the job in Hyde Park. I hope you're satisfied. We've been trying to make
Looks
it
great.
nice.
It looks nice.
Yeah, and then, you know,
yeah,
of course,
Blair Road came out really, really nice.
Thank you. And, you know, and then there was Poughkeepsie, and we've had our, you know, we're very proud to keep the crews that we work with together,
Busy.
even during COVID. You know, we paid them, we didn't like anybody to, we had to lay off 6 guys because we just ran out of jobs now, and we were planning on Crofton Muse, and there is work to do, so I'll let Pete know, but, you know, because we want to bring them back. I don't want them to sit unemployed. It's not fair, and they're good people, and I don't want them to get picked up by anybody else, so it's a little selfish, too.
You've got a family.
Yeah, they know these are 6 guys that have been with us for a while, and I need to keep them busy, so, you know, we'd appreciate any help in that regard.
That really wouldn't be from the planning board, that would be Ms. Moss and Pete, I think, depending on what the activities are. But you should also.
Well, every applicant's treated, you know, the same, and there can't be any, you know, work done until all the approvals are in place and the plans are signed. So, I mean, I don't know, is that, you know, what you're asking?
What I'm asking right now
I know,
is
it's
so
to
I can
move it.
expose the mains and see if they're...
Well, you can do it, yeah, of course, yeah.
That's the very specific
No,
ask,
that's not an
you know,
issue.
So, okay, great.
No, I just meant, I didn't know if you meant starting the project, I mean, other things other than the
I don't think we can put in the bridge overnight. I think you'd catch us at that one.
Yeah,
so-
we probably would
notice
notice
Maybe
that.
they-
If not, you know.
Maybe the
tur-
muddy stream would give us a
And the
break,
turtles
so-
would probably call it in anyway, so.
Right.
I
so-
would advise you to make sure that your workers have read the planning turtle mitigation notes. So they
Oh, we're
know-
going to give that to them. That's part of our...
Just making certain, because
Yeah.
you don't want the DEC getting all over you, because well, highly likely that there's turtles on site
Yeah.
at various times. Anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Kaufman?
Nothing right now.
Ms. Moss, any comments? Mrs. Otero?
No.
Do we think that we're getting close enough to schedule this in 2
We didn't
weeks?
reopen the hearing.
Oh,
Making a motion to reopen the public hearing?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or
Thank you, Cynthia.
abstentions? Anne's usually the person
I'm
who...
usually, yeah, no.
It's because we've been doing this for so long, it feels like pushing the rock up the
you're
ledge
part of the family.
Sisyphus, yes.
Yeah, you guys are saying, do I have to come back in 3 years? And I'm saying, come talk to me, I'll tell you how it feels.
So, I mean, I can get something out by early next week, so our next meeting is the 21st. I mean,
We'd like to not add a lot of new conditions, Lou, so you
I
said you're
know.
going to respond to Bonnie's last comments, quickly.
did,
Does
yeah.
that
Yeah,
mean
I
plan
know you guys
revisions?
are trying to shy away from, trying to move away from like the 41 conditions I had in Jeffrey Groves, but, so don't give me a lot of conditions.
No,
That's
I'm
okay.
just saying, are you,
All the old conditions are going to carry over.
all the old conditions
So,
carry over, so if there are any new conditions, remember,
The mitigation plan, it doesn't void the old approval.
right,
It modifies it.
modifies it. So, but if you're going to change the plans based on Bonnie's comments, then you should change the plans with as many things as you can get into to the final version for us
Absolutely.
to approve and extend.
Absolutely.
Well,
Okay.
if that's the case, then if I get my comments out, maybe they make one more final, if you're trying to knock some of Bonnie's comments off.
And any of yours are remaining.
All right, well, then maybe we just shoot for September the 4th?
Is that the next? After
Yeah,
this?
that's a choice.
The
It's a
first one is
choice.
we have August 21st or September 4th.
Because, I mean, they're not going to be able to make changes and get them back, and then us take a look at
We're
them.
going to be able to resolve Bonnie's comments pretty quickly. They're nothing significant.
He's just asking, he's saying that it may take him a little bit longer to get his comments, so he can incorporate those two to have
Right.
less conditions.
Right, you know,
That's what we
Whatever.
prefer, that's what,
Yeah.
well, that's,
September 4th, August.
that's also what our,
1st.
no, that's also what our consultants prefer, because when people think they've met all the conditions, they demand that they drop everything and go through it, review it, and say, yes, it's all done, which they can't do because they have other clients as well.
Well, that's the words I want out of Pete and Ted's mouth, so whatever it takes.
Okay, let me see if there's any comments from the board. Let me start to my right. Mr. Gercio, any comments?
No.
Mr. Oliver?
No comments.
Ms. Dexter?
No.
Mr. Waters?
No.
And Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Aha!
Among Bonnie's, there were two that stood out that I just wanted to talk about real quickly. The first was the phasing that has changed since the approval back in the day. When she mentioned the 5-acre thing, I don't have an issue with that. I'm not sure where that came from, but okay. She noted that in the original version, the whole roadway, including the emergency access, was included in phase 1.
Correct.
And now that doesn't get completed until the whole project is completed in phase 4. So I just wanted to verify for emergency services and such that there's not an issue with not having a secondary access to the project when much of it is
No, there is an
built.
issue. No, there has to be secondary access
Right, okay, that was my assumption.
from day one.
So it doesn't appear the way that it's phased.
Right,
here,
so
that
let
These
me-
latest plans include a phasing plan now?
I believe it does.
Yeah.
And so let me bring that up, thank you. So I was actually investigating today. There is some difficulty in terms of grading and all that from the emergency access that will ultimately be it from Green Tree into the site. And it also requires putting in at least one of the secondary bridges.
Yeah.
So, in the interim, while we work on that, I looked at the easement, we have the off-site easement from the water tower onto our property today. That is a legitimate access road for emergency vehicles. And so we would be, we have to dress that up a little, put a little stone down where there's gullies and, maybe widen it a little because the bushes are encroaching on it. But the easement provides for it to be an emergency access. And I'm not liking Tad's action here,
You
but
build little gullies that have the, whatever the shrimp, the fairy
shrimps. The
shrimps that are endangered species, so you're not gonna fill ruts. Otherwise, we're gonna
can't.
go back into
Yeah.
seeker.
I beg your pardon, though. That is a water easement that,
Right, it's a water line easement. Yeah.
right,
It's not a,
yes, it is. It says it's for an emergency access.
All right, well, we'll have to look at that.
Do we have a copy of the
Well,
easement?
provided.
the supplemental EAF identified the fairy shrimp in the tire tracks
I
in
believe
that road.
we actually saw them when we were,
I found one.
yeah,
Okay.
we saw them when we were walking out with, not forgetting his name. Yeah,
Eric.
sorry. Eric Kiviat.
Yep.
Dr. Eric Kiviat from Hudsonia. He showed us, so, yes. But if you'll supply those,
Right, so we'll work this issue. We can look at it.
Yeah, we'll have to
Give them
look
a
at it.
nesting area too.
Yes, alongside of the turtles, they get the same amount.
they're endangered.
I actually found one in the
So
tire.
is housing in Hyde Park.
No, affordable housing in Hyde Park is what's in danger. Are you going to be, is it going to be affordable units?
There's certainly going to be a,
They're going to be market units, come on, let's be honest. I don't think they've ever heard about affordability over there. But we're trying to get you there, Lou, I promise.
Yeah.
Any other, oh, yes.
Second thing, I know you said you'll address Bonnie's comments. I just wanted to reiterate on lighting. There's a good deal, just because of the age of the plan, that is not on there that we would expect to be on there now. When we talk about this being a mitigation plan, lighting is a key component for an environmentally sensitive area. So we just need to make sure that we have all of that information in front of us. So that should be, spec sheets and Kelvin and the whole standard 9 yards.
It's a good point, because a lot of the old fixtures.
Oh,
It's not
yes.
LED. It wouldn't have been LED. It's all different now.
Did she bring that up, Dylan?
It's in her
Yes.
letter.
She did.
Yep.
Yes.
That could be a condition. I mean, it's going to be a big condition for them to
It's a
meet.
big one,
It's
yeah.
a big one. And we'd have to make that satisfied to the satisfaction of, if we condition that, Victoria, who we make that to the satisfaction of, shouldn't the board evaluate that?
It should be, let's think about, maybe they'll address it in the next 2
Yeah, I
weeks.
don't know,
Okay.
I mean,
Turn it around.
Okay.
if you get it to, a lighting, like consultant, they should be able to go turn that around pretty, quickly. It's just.
Like swapping it out, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't be a
Okay.
big deal.
As long as they have an understanding of what our expectations are for the quality of lighting that we expect for dark
She
sky,
outlined it in-
cutoff, and 3000K and all that kind of
Did
stuff.
she outline it in the memo? I didn't.
She doesn't get into quite that much detail, but she asked for Kelvin and spec sheets and such, but not quite that.
So, Lou, we have a lighting section in the code, obviously, that would help, but more importantly, there's a Greenway Compact standard
Been updated.
that's been updated, that if you take a look at, I think that's online, I believe. Yes, so if you take a look there, that'll tell you what the maximums are for bug, et cetera, Kelvin values. The maximum we allow is 3,000 K to keep a warmer, softer light, particularly in environmentally sensitive areas. But yes, that should be updated. Good catch, obviously, Mr. Tuttle. And my comment was going to be about the phasing, but that's really my only comment. So, because I read it in Bonnie's. Otherwise, I have no comments. So, we're going to adjourn this to September the 4th. Make a motion to adjourn this to, motion to
Adjourn to September.
adjourn this to September 4th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. You're going to stay here for the sign permit, I think? Do you want to stay here for the sign permit?
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, it's a full,
Site plan amendment.
Well, site plan amendment as well, sorry. And
And
Yeah, forget the site plan amendment, never mind.
the
Let's
next,
just get a sign.
the next item on the agenda is Ballard Avenue Coffee Shop, making a motion to reopen the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries. The applicants are not here this evening. Councilman Lombardi is tested positive for COVID, so he's at home watching it. Yep.
Sorry, John.
A new version seems to be going around. There's still the issue of the DOT because, and this also ties into Mr. Tuttle's issue with some of the lighting. They're aware of the issues, but they haven't changed them because they haven't given us new plans for the lighting because if the second exit is denied, they're going to redo everything, change locations of lighting, et cetera. So that's why we're waiting on DOT. The DOT comments were pretty detailed about what's necessary, but they still said they're looking for more information to specifically justify the southern exit. So I think that what that means is they probably need to go back to their traffic consultant. And
I reread their traffic report with that in mind, and I'm sure that's exactly what
That's
they
what I'm
want.
thinking.
They want more in that traffic study.
Yep. Because it's not that it's bare bones, and I couldn't believe how much it cost when I was told, but it doesn't maybe go quite far enough for what they're looking for DOT. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to comment about this application? Any comments from the consultants? Any comments from the board?
I'm just curious if, just to follow that train, because at the last meeting, Mr. Lombardi was saying that he had had a discussion with DOT and they had been able to, I thought, come to an understanding as to why the exit was there. So I was really surprised at the letter from DOT asking for more explanation. So
I think it's that they understand why it's there, but they want to have something that they can
something with numbers and values and,
That's what I'm guessing.
yeah, okay,
I
okay.
would say the applicant is equally confused.
Any other comments?
No.
There being no other comments, may I get a motion to adjourn this to August the 21st?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda,
Look at
Jeffrey
that,
Groves
Jeffrey Groves
Estates.
Good evening, members of the board. Louis Kaufman for the applicant. So we have submitted a site plan that's fairly simple in what the revisions are.
Yep.
Patio, privacy fence, which we got on the other street, and the location of the project sign, as well as detail on what that sign will look like, which would be similar to the sign that we've applied for on Daniels Way, but for the one says west, the other says, North Cross Estates east and North Cross Estates west. I'm so used to calling it Jeffrey Groves Estates. You turn it over to marketing and they just cut you right out.
I'm not sure anybody remembers who Mr. Groves was, but
yeah.
the owner, I believe, was a farmer originally.
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
From way back when.
Anyhow,
Again, it
so
predates us.
I'm hoping the board would, see its way clear to approve.
We have a resolution prepared.
Thank you.
We'd be happy to know. Before we get on to that, any comments from the consultants? Yep, Ms. Moss?
We went ahead and did both signs.
I'm sorry, what?
We did both signs.
Okay, thank
We
you.
addressed both signs.
Any other comments? Board members, any comments?
In my letter.
No. Okay, this will be introduced by Mr. Oliver.
May I just address the
Yes.
board on one thing? I read the proposed resolution. I'm assuming that the board will consider that. And the resolution itself, with regard to the signs, it requires an easement for lot one, essentially from ourselves to ourselves. And I would like to get both signs in right away so I could get the marketing up on that. And until I can either do one of two things, or I request the board consider this, that before you issue a CO on that lot one, which is not a part of my request to the building department yet, that we resolve the easement if that's required, or until that time, lot one is responsible for the sign, so, which is us anyway. So I'm just wondering if you could, rather than, delay that, we could do it for now.
So right now, the resolution is crafted so that the only conditions on the site plan are showing any proposed electrical lines to serve the monument sign, if there are any, and payment of fees and escrow, so that they can move forward, get the COs, and close out their site plan. It's further conditioned on issuance of the sign permit requiring an easement from Lot 1 to the HOA. It sounds like you're asking to move that to be a condition of CO.
Yes, I am.
Oh,
Lot one, right.
Ms. Moss, do you want to weigh in on that?
Hadn't thought about it.
Um,
I don't know that that's gonna help.
When are you applying for a building permit to have to receive a CO for lot one?
We have a building permit already.
That's what I'm saying, it's already there, so when are we going to get the CO? You already have the CO, don't you?
I don't have a CO,
No.
no, and I haven't applied for it yet.
This is holding up the CO, but
No,
No,
it's
the COs.
not, we haven't applied for a CO on that lot yet.
You've applied for COs for
Other lots,
other lots, but not that one.
different buildings.
Other like buildings.
Right.
So this would give you time to which to,
Got the easement together. It seems to be a recordation is an obligation.
yes, you have to record
So it'll
these.
take a little bit of time. And I would like to get that sign in.
board members, are you okay with that? It's for one lot, if you applied for it and didn't have the sign up, you wouldn't get the CO.
Understand,
Right.
understood.
I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I don't see it.
Okay.
As long as it's legally spelled out,
Just
in
to
a way.
add to your lack of a computer tonight, Victoria, and trying to help out here.
The one, yeah, everyone's making it complicated today.
The day she didn't have a computer.
Okay, just give me a moment. So we can take the sign recommendation out altogether then?
It does have Dr.
Ah,
handwriting,
okay.
lawyer handwriting, I'm gonna mention that. So we're missing the computer.
I used to win penmanship awards when I was in elementary school. I can't write like that anymore. The computer is, and they don't teach penmanship anymore.
We had a lot more time in elementary school.
Boy, did we.
Okay, so the, be it further resolved that spoke about recommendation of the sign permit, since this isn't really on 9 or 9G, where Tad can issue the sign permit on her own. That is now replaced with, be it further resolved that prior to the zoning administrator authorizing issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall satisfy the following condition. And then the condition remains the same.
I would add lot one.
On lot one.
Ah, okay. Yeah, on lot
Yeah,
one.
I beat you.
Good catch.
Thank you.
For lot one. Got
Mr.
it.
Oliver,
So prior to the zoning administrator issuing,
Authorizing issuance, because she doesn't issue it,
why
she
don't
authorizes.
you just let
Yeah.
Victoria?
perfect.
Okay.
There you go.
You can read the first part and then I'll.
There you go. It works really well.
Resolution to approve amended site plan Jeffrey Groves Estate, resolution number 2018-04R and 68-12N, whereas. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby approves the amended site plan set and authorizes the chair or his authorized designee to sign the site plan set after compliance with the following conditions. 1, payment of all fees in escrow. 2, revision of the amended site plan set to show any proposed electrical lines to lot 1 to serve the proposed monument sign. Be it further resolved that
Prior to the zoning administrator authorizing issuance of a CO, certificate of occupancy for lot 1, the applicant shall satisfy the following condition. And then it's, you can read it.
Just, I apologize for interrupting, but showing the electrical lines, that I was hoping to put that off as
No.
well, so I can get my COs tomorrow. No?
Oh. Well, then we have to amend the site plan. Can't you just, okay. It's up to the board.
What?
This doesn't impact the next.
No, well, he's reading that in order for me to get the site plan approved, I have to show the electric lines. And I'm suggesting that that all be part of the same package for lot 1.
Electric lines for what, the
To the
sign?
sign.
To lot 1 to serve the proposed monument sign.
But there are 2 signs, right? Oh, no, just that one, okay, good.
Right.
So, I mean, it is part of the site plan to have the electrical on the site plan.
Oh, wait a minute. What, is the concern that the electric line may be on lot number 1? Is that?
Yes, it will be. It's going to go
Okay,
serve lot
so
1.
then, right, so it should be shown just for that particular lot.
He wants to get the plans that he already submitted signed, so he doesn't want to reprint.
Well, I don't have a set.
So-
Okay, you don't have a set anyways. I mean, how long will it take you?
Well, isn't there a set waiting for Michael to sign so you can get your COs?
I don't have a set here waiting to sign.
No, hasn't
No?
been submitted.
We don't do that before you approve.
No, wait a minute. Wait a minute, the amended plan that he submitted that shows like the patios,
Yeah,
that's,
it's been distributed
and that's
to the board.
And that's awaiting Michael's signature so he can get CO?
No,
Okay.
They get distributed to the board. She doesn't have them to sign, because the board has them.
Okay.
I-
I thought they were here.
So a query would be, is it possible to allow Mr. Kaufman to show the electrical lines on some sort of, I know you hate that, but some sort of traceable paper to put over lot 1?
I mean, this is pretty minor.
I don't believe the tail's wagging the dog now. I don't believe it.
The tail's wagging it. Well, I mean, we discussed the sign at the last meeting, so you did have time to address the issue. It's not like it's an issue that just came up tonight. So I don't think that's a fair characterization.
All right, so wait a minute. So Lou needs to provide how many paper copies of plans to sign, for Michael to sign?
I have to check, there's a list There's a list of who it gets distributed to.
Okay, so you
I-
know that you have to
each one's
provide
different.
X amount of plans for Michael to sign when
It's
Cynthia.
usually 6.
So why can't you just have somebody show the, like, electric line on the plan before you provide the number of copies for Michael to sign? It's just, all they're looking for is just that,
A thing
it's just
saying
that-
electrical line.
It's just that one little area by the sign. Where does it go?
Okay,
Well, I don't think it's gonna hold you up because we don't have this plans yet for Michael to sign.
Right.
So just have some, who did those plans? Day?
Brian wants.
So
Yeah, okay,
put a line on there where it is, that says like E, and
right, okay.
then submit it for Michael to sign.
It's just one small data layer to add on, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a big deal. I mean, as long as Brian's gonna say, well, you're gonna have to show me, somebody can tell him where it
You
is,
can
Brian
even
or
put
something.
approximate
Plans,
location. Just put approximate location,
Okay.
right?
I think you need it because it has to be in the.
Chris, you want to continue? I don't
Sure.
think you finished the
Where
resolution.
was I?
The last
Approval
approval.
one, the approval by the attorney to the planning board of an easement from Lot 1 to the homeowners association permitting the construction and maintenance of the sign and any lighting and proof of recordation of the approved easement with the Dutchess County Clerk.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? The motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Hyde Park Town Center North, Building 3, Feeds Plus. The applicants have agreed apparently to revise, after discussion from the last meeting, the dormer, or dormers, I should say.
Oh,
But we're waiting that revision to send to Dutchess County Planning. In addition, I should add here that Mr. Berger, I believe he has a death in the family, and the architect is also on vacation, so that's why there's some delay apparently on this. But in the meantime, we still need to set a public hearing for the next meeting. So I'm making a motion to set a public hearing for August 21st.
so moved.
Second.
Thank you, Dylan. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstention? The motion carries. Gleason Family Properties.
So they are going to modify
The dormer.
the dormers and, okay, good.
I conveyed my strong support for modifying the dormers as well when I got
Because
back.
I thought we had agreed to that anyway, so,
Good. It's a
anyway,
little concession
I'm happy.
for
I'm
big
happy, thank
change.
you.
So, come on up.
Come on
Instead of
down.
me having to introduce this, you can introduce it yourselves for once. It's good to see you guys again.
It's been a
Nice
while.
nice shoes,
Yeah.
Katie.
Oh, thank you. It's all about the swirl of life. So I'm here tonight. My name is Catherine Gleason, and my husband Tom Gleason is here. He's also my site contractor, and I'm here to request an extension for my site plan.
And we have to set a public hearing, but do you want to tell us why you want the extension? You've already said it in a letter. I know what the answers are, but put it into the record for the audience.
Yeah, in case,
Well, not that we all have not heard about DOT tonight. However, due to a change in regime, Mr. Taylor, who had originally started with the site plan, is no longer there in that
Correct.
office. And so now my files, absolutely nothing could be found. And yes, Mr. Taylor would not speak to me in person when he was there. But Mr. LaRose has been very kind and does speak to me and keeps me appraised on everything. And so they had to start from scratch. So there were a couple little things that were missing. And so my engineer, John Andrews, is working diligently with him. And I spoke to him today. He was out in the fields there on my property, actually. And he feels in a few weeks they should have everything resolved. So LaRosa has been working with him very well.
I haven't met Mr. LaRose, but Pete has and speaks highly of him as well.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
And we get communication
very
back from him pretty
responsive,
quickly. We
yeah.
get communication back pretty quickly, so I'm sorry you went through that.
And he's very upfront and he's very honest. He tells me where it is, so that I don't have to fret and say, oh, am I looking at months? Am I looking at, well, I ask outright, am I
Right,
looking at a
yeah.
week? Am I looking at 6 months? And he tells me exactly, and he keeps to his word. So if he tells me that he will be emailing or sending out information, it is there within that day.
Nice.
So it's been lovely to work with him, especially because he does communicate with me, and so it makes the project go a little bit smoother, although I was highly disappointed that there was absolutely no paperwork. I had to redo the site plan, everything to him. They had nothing in their office on his property. He was shocked. He was like, what are you talking about?
There's no file whatsoever, because we corresponded with them extensively back and forth, discussed with them personally.
Sent the signed copy?
Yeah, that just seems
I had to send
wrong.
him all my emails that I had, just from Andrews and myself trying to communicate with him. And he had to do a lot of backtracking.
I can only imagine. At any rate, making a motion to set the public hearing for
August 21st.
August 21st.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Nope. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. You didn't have to wait here the whole time for this, but thank you for letting us know all the details. I didn't actually know that DOT had lost all your files.
Wow.
Mm.
If there's anything we can do to help to provide you our
Just
information,
shaking
let
my
us
head.
know.
Just, I would love a building permit. I do have a DOT permit number, but until DOT issues me the hard copy, I'm waiting on that. But we are working on
Getting
site
close.
plan. That's what I tell myself.
Over and
Just keep
over
telling
again.
yourself that.
It'll be done right.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes sense now as to why we drive by and nothing's really happening lately.
Yeah.
So that DOT didn't have anything to help you with. So, okay. It's great to see you guys. Take care.
Yep, have a good night.
Board members, because Mr. Zarin is here and would be sitting through 2 waivers we don't have any people here for, do you
Right.
mind if we bump him up?
No.
Mr. Zarin, come on up. Oh, for the audience, the applicant has made a request for a zoning text change to the town board. The town board referred this as required to the planning board for comments. Mr. Zarin has provided some justification. We had our planning consultant do a review, extensive one, and then we also had an attorney-client memo that the board was able to review both. And then I asked a couple of board members their feelings, and apparently it was mostly that there were questions still about the text change and what the implications were, et cetera. So I composed the letter accordingly. Mr. Zarin has had a chance to see it because it's on the agenda. And we turn it over to you now, Michael.
Well, good evening. I'm sorry and apologize for being here after all the tremendous effort we made on the resolution, but while we did agree to the 60-35 split, we did because that is the trend in the hospitality field, and that is what we think in reality was going to ensure that these are transient uses. Unfortunately, the investment committee of our lenders were waiting to see the final conditional site plan approval, and when they saw the fixed 65-35 split, they informed us that that was not market and they would not be able to finance with that split. So as I tried to lay out succinctly and possible in response, both in our initial letter and in response to Bonnie's memo, we are no way deviating from the intent and the, oh, come on up. The last time I told them that I saw the agenda, I said I figured we get on about 7:30 or 8 o'clock, or you beat us, so, and you know Brad, and you know Lou. So I hope everyone got a chance to read our responses to Bonnie's memo. I thought Bonnie's memo was good, laid out the sort of the critical issues and the questions, and we tried to respond to them. Just in short, we're not deviating at all from the intent, the programming, of the zoning. These are going to be transient uses. We tried to add some language to the zoning to ensure that there'd be transient uses within the language of the zoning, that they could not be primary residences, which is a legal term used for this type of thing. That if they're not being used, they must be put into the rental program and will be rented whenever not used. And I think it's important. We intend to strictly enforce that. We are relying on the rental income as part of our pro formas. Brent can answer any questions to that effect. So I know Bonnie raised the issue whether this board would consider just including maybe this language in the resolution as opposed to rezoning. We would support that if that's the direction the board wants to go. It certainly simplifies things. On the other hand, as we laid out in I believe, item 4, with Bonnie's suggestion of restructuring the language, we have no problem with that. So if the board wants to either adopt that language, and again, omits the 65-35 as a fixed percentage, which we think, and we're pretty confident there's going to be an approximate percentage anyhow, and wants to just use that language in the resolution, substitute it, we have no problem with that, and we've adopted Bonnie's restructured language as we laid out in the underlying language. So again, this is not something that we intended. It's something that the lenders and the sales community of the brokers in the area have told us. We've always intended, and the model has not changed whatsoever, these will be transient uses. And the impacts won't change under SECRA. There's going to be no additional impervious surface, no additional bedrooms, physicality, whatever the case. And I know someone raised parking, but parking will be the same that you studied. Each leasehold villa, this 2 bedrooms will have 2 parking spaces, the 3 bedrooms 3, and the 4 bedrooms 4 between the garage and the driveway. And that was laid out in our FEAF, so you've already looked at that and studied that. So, and I know that Bonnie raised the issue of taxes. As you probably all know, the assessor, that's been a little bit in limbo, but we've been discussing with the town, and they're not final yet on our exact tax, but we expect that it will be done as part of the project. The leasehold villas and not as condo residential, not taxed as condo residential. These are not fee simple. They're part of the resort. They were designed as commercial. Every villa has a sprinkler, smaller units on the second floor because those are the design building code criteria for this classification of transient housing. And as mentioned before, that's always been the intent and will be the intent. So I would just open it up to any questions, concerns you
We'll
might
start with the
have that
consultants,
we
but
haven't
did you
addressed.
answer the question about occupancy tax?
Excuse me?
Did you answer the question about occupancy tax?
I'm not.
It's in Bonnie's memo. If you stay over a certain amount of days, the county, it's considered a permanent residence by the county. There's no occupancy tax charged.
Was that in her? I didn't see that in the memo that was sent to us.
Basically, the letter that I wrote talks about that we had a lot of questions that we don't think you provided enough analysis for. And I was trying to go through myself and look at potential seeker impacts because they're probably actually the same or lower, but that's not my job or our job. That's your job. You can't just assert there's no seeker changes. You should provide some kind of narrative, in my opinion, but we'll hear from the rest of the board. Well, first, we'll start over with Ms. Moss. Any comments? Mr. Sotero? I didn't think so. Ms. Polidoro? Thank you. Mr. Tuttle?
I think you're right, frankly, that the impacts associated here are liable to be the same or perhaps even lessened. But to Michael's point, when you're asking for a change like this to approve site plan, we need to see some kind of seeker analysis that lays out those what you're claiming. So I'm also feeling like we just don't have quite the adequate amount of information here. But I'm curious I guess to the consultants from a just process perspective, if the request is to remove condition 5 and instead insert language into the zoning code, is that a request for site plan amendment to the planning board as well as a zoning request to the town
Well,
board?
they're not asking, if we go the way of the language, they want different language put into the resolution, not an actual zoning text change as far as I can understand it.
Bonnie had asked a question. Are you asking that we amend the resolution, or are you asking for a zoning amendment? So ultimately, even if the zoning's amended, I think we have to revisit the site plan anyways.
Right.
Because that condition would no longer make sense. So we would have to amend the resolution in some manner.
Right, okay.
If the town board adopts the zoning amendment.
Okay. I think that's it for me for right now.
Thank you. Rob?
I just had one question, and maybe you can answer this. Suppose the person who's purchasing the villa or whatever is a partnership, or there's multiple owners, and they decide to stay each 130 some odd days each. What I mean, is there anything like that? Is there any protection? Because then it won't go into a leasing agreement. I mean,
You mean like three friends buy a unit and they
like
split it
three
up?
friends do it, or an LLC or a corporation, like a partnership or a corporation purchase them as an investment, but then they say, okay, you stay here in the spring, summer, winter, and fall, and it never gets to be rented out. It was just a question I had in that scenario.
I guess the question Rob's asking, one of the criteria is this not be a primary resident. That's a legally utilized terminology that the IRS uses, and they use it as, is this the dwelling unit that's used most of the time? So I think that would be our standard that we would have to demonstrate. And
Actually, his question, I'm sorry, was not whether it's a primary residence. His question is if there's an LLC and say 4 partners, can each partner stay there a certain amount of time so that it doesn't become a primary residence, but it never enters the rental pool? That's a different question than what you're answering. No offense.
I was going to get
Okay.
No, I think it's whether it's one unit or one buyer or 6 buyers, the enforcement is still the same.
Microphone, please.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Whether it's one buyer or 6 buyers, the enforcement is still the same.
The same.
And the transient use and being obligated within the rental program remains intact.
Yeah, I just thought it was illegal, I'm not a lawyer, so I didn't, it was just something that I thought about, and I said, suppose that happens, suppose that comes up, how is that handled?
It's still considered one buyer, whether it's an LLC with 6 people or whether it's
Or
an
3
individual.
owners. Yeah,
Correct. So it would still be a single entity or a single individual, and we would still treat it the same in terms of the management and enforcement.
So you would maybe have something that says primary residence or principal place of business, or, so you would cover all of those.
Yeah, well, it can't be a principal place of business, but
But,
in terms of a
LLCs don't have
residence.
a residence,
Yeah.
so I think that's what he's raising.
Yep.
How do you stop the loopholes?
Yeah.
It would be the same enforcement, whether it's an LLC buyer. I mean, a lot of these second home buyers buy it through an LLC anyway.
Right, so I think they're looking for you to provide some information on how you close that loophole.
Can you clarify for
And
me
whose
what you mean by
enforcement
enforcement?
Through the property management.
So and forgive me if I'm just coming in late to this, but from your perspective, if, there is an expectation or even a requirement within the leasehold that it be put on the rental, be rented out for a certain amount of the year. Are you specifying what percentage of the year that is in that agreement, and we just can't
No, that's exactly what the lenders didn't want us to do, is have an exact percentage, but it cannot.
Then how are you defining transient then?
So it's actually not. The way that they've proposed a zoning amendment, it's a new use, right? Lodging is a use, and then this is like a new use that's not lodging and not necessarily transient, but can't be primary dwelling. So it's not intended to be transient, it's something else, because that's,
How are we creating a new use?
No, I don't,
well, I'm saying under the code, that's what it is. It's a new use.
well, it's lodging facilities, which lodging facilities includes other sleeping accommodations that are transient.
But if
So,
that were the case, if it's just other sleeping accommodations that are transient, then TAD's interpretation is going to be that these aren't transient, right? So you're trying to overcome the interpretation that transient means less than a certain number of days a year.
That's correct. We're not disputing the zoning, that these will be lodging facilities, which are sleeping accommodations that are transient. What the only thing that we are saying is to include an interpretation of criteria of 65-35 is not necessary to make these transient. These are going to be transient. They're not going to be primary residence. They're going to be, whenever not occupied, in the rental program. All the different agreements, Dylan, to your point, we have declarations with everyone with respect to they must be transient, and these conditions are in their declarations. We have club membership agreements that every one of them has to be in the club, in the resort, and part of the resort. These are all built in. We have sub-ground leases, boilerplates with every one of them, in which we have the authority to enforce them. And enforcement means we can bring injunctive relief. We could theoretically seek to evict them if they violated it. These are leases. They're leasehold interests that these people buy. It's one of the advantages of being a leasehold. We don't love having to do this leasehold. It's caused all types of hoops, but it does provide you with easier enforcement because they only have a leasehold interest. That's what they're purchasing, not fee simple. We don't have to bring quote-unquote eviction proceedings. We have the right to enforce our lease, and we have all types of ways that we can do that we can use to enforce them. And the conditions are very strict. And then the CIA's on top of us.
Why don't you give Brent the walk-around microphone, as we call it, for him when he speaks?
That
Can you hand him
microphone
that one? Yeah.
There you go.
No, what I was just saying is on top of whatever enforcement we have as a resort manager, the CIA, per the ground lease, has that enforcement on top of us as a transient use. So it's a two-tier management and enforcement.
So you keep referring to it remaining transient, but you won't define transient. The 65-35 is our attempt to define what transient means.
I understand that, Michael. But I'm just saying.
No, what I'm going to say to you is you're really going to sue someone who bought a unit for $4 million if they decide to stay there 9 months?
But I think that question remains the same, Michael, at whatever level, right? Whether it's defined at 35%, 50%, or 60%.
No. 60% of the time here is not transient. I'm sorry. Ms. Moss is the one who makes those determinations, not us.
No, I'm just using it as an example. I'm not saying that's the definition. What I'm saying is the enforcement of whatever percentage it may be to a general standard of this is not a permanent residence, you cannot claim this, you cannot stay as a permanent residence remains the same. So
I'm
you're going to
trying to get you to say that if they stay there in 9 months, I'm not saying it's a permanent residence either. I'm just saying that's not transient. Ms. Moss has made a determination. That's why the 65-35 was in there in the first place. This didn't get plucked out of the air. Though you proposed it and she agreed with it. She actually, if I recall correctly, our discussion said, I would have made a lot less time than that. In other words, she feels she gave a lot to you guys already to get to the 35% of the time, percentage of the year that they can stay there in the first place for it to remain transient. That's really our dispute here is what is transient. You guys are attempting to redefine it, in my opinion.
Well,
let me just say again, if we're going to recommend to the town board that we allow that, you still need to do a real analysis. And part of the secret analysis won't just be looking at impacts that are generated by this site. Lodging facilities are allowed in other locations. I know how this works because people on your side are smart, and as soon as they see one exception made, they're going to say, oh, well, what's different with my lodging facility than yours?
Yeah.
Your seeker impact should look at what would happen in terms of, I believe, impacts in the Greenbelt, because that's supposed to be the least dense units, but those lodging facilities are allowed there because it's also a great area. So in this instance, like for the CIA, if there's no residence, there's no single-family residential allowed, so there's no density calculation. We might be able to talk about a density calculation allowed in Greenbelt otherwise, but I really am worried about what this does in terms of, because you're essentially just redefining what a hotel is, in my opinion. Again, if a town board wants to do it, then...
So, Michael, what I guess I'm trying to get my arms around SECRA, and one of the axioms of zoning is its use, not user. But, so the impacts are, what are the impacts of people staying there?
But for longer periods of time than what we consider to meet the definition of lodging facility.
We don't think based on, and look, you'll either trust, we've had this relationship, you'll either trust that when we say that the hospitality trends, that 65-35 is a real trend. That's why we agreed to that. That's what we think it will be. That's what's based on the field, the hospitality field. So we maintain that as a matter of reality, that's probably close to where the percentage is going to be. There may be some units that have a higher ratio, and there are some units that are going to have a much lower ratio. It may be the owner occupies it 20% of the time. That's not unusual for these type of things. So the 65-35% is a market, is a reality trend. So as far as impacts go, SECRA, it's the same impacts. I don't think we have any change in the impacts.
Direct from your parcel.
What we're talking about is zoning. What you're talking about is how are you going to enforce and really make these transient? How are you going to ensure that these are transient? That's what I think we're talking about.
I'm not even sure we could enforce a 65-35. I'm not even sure we could enforce a 65-35. Tad can't be over there every day.
But that's our job as the manager, facilities manager. We will keep records. We will keep very good records that you can have access to, and you can make that a condition to show what the percentages are.
A condition of what?
It's not being used.
You already got your approval.
It's not being used as a primary residence.
But what am I conditioning?
It's not being used.
No. I know what the condition is. Can you tell me what I'm conditioning? The site plan? Do you want us to reopen site plan?
Oh, no. The resolution.
The resolution isn't going. The resolution. We're not going to have a resolution. We don't. All we do is make a recommendation to the town board.
Well, no, Michael. Wait. Let's take a step back. The recommendation to the town board would be if we stick with this and we do this as a change in the zoning. That was a referral. Bonnie raised in her memo, number one item. She said, maybe you guys shouldn't go the zoning route. Maybe you should ask the board to substitute the language from the zoning as a condition in the resolution for defining how this board wants us to ensure that these are going to be transient. Now, we'll go the other route. If you want us to continue to go on the rezoning, then we're comfortable with what we've presented to you. It's going to be what we've written. These will be transient. And you don't have to do anything except say...
Place trust inside you. I don't want you just to hear from me. Let me start over to the left. Dylan, do you have any comments?
I went once, but I do have some more after
that's
our discussion
here.
here.
More comments.
To a couple things. I don't think, and I would rely a little bit on our consultants to help me suss this out, but I don't think I would be comfortable with us adding this language here. It sets a precedent that it almost acts as something that can be challenged later if we decide if there's something different on a different site. I think it has to be a zoning change. That's my perception on that. To echo what Michael said, one of the reasons that, so we've got two intertangled issues here. One is we have to determine, is this an okay idea to make this change? Is that acceptable? And then the second thing we have to determine is what's the best way to go about doing that. To Michael's point, I don't know that the 65-35 was any less enforceable than the primary residency piece of this. And for that, and because I don't really think there are much in the way of seeker impacts, I don't have a problem with this change. I do think that there are seeker obligations that we have to meet in order for us to move forward with it, though. To that end, as Michael pointed out, the way that this is drafted, that you've drafted this in the code, it would apply anywhere. It could end up applying anywhere that a lodging facility exists. And that makes me think that this is not quite the right way to go about doing this in the code. It may be that what we need to do is create a new use, put in the definitions, put that use in the use table as this can be allowed only in the St. Andrews district. There may be a slightly different way that we need to go about doing this in the code.
Well, your point's well taken. I don't necessarily disagree with your basic premise. They created in the SAD, the provision that we're modifying is a zoning that's specific to the St. Andrews district.
Right.
That was, as we all recognize, was created specifically for the CIA land. And that's why they came up with educational, conference center, and hotel, and other lodging facilities. So we were sensitive to that, Dylan, and it's why we tried to modify that provision about the SAD, not extend it to other districts. That's exactly why we did this, because the SAD is a very specific, unique district, and we tried to modify it within that definition. So we didn't make it a new allowable use. Lodging facilities is allowed for transient, has a transient nature, so forth. I think what we're trying to all grapple with, because the code doesn't define transient, and it's a little unique in the sense of, yes, we have a transient lodging that's part of the resort. It's all integrated, which you've already found is consistent with the code. What we're grappling with, I think, here between us is the 65-35 was a self-made criteria and interpretation that we all agreed to try to ensure that these would remain transient. That we agreed with that. We understood it. We had no problem with that number because we do believe that's what the hospitality industry will do. The only reason we're here, it's the reality of the market. And believe me, we wouldn't be here if we weren't being told this. The financial people saying we will not finance, we cannot finance that type of provision. They have no problem with the 65-35 split because we've told them that's what our pro forma shows, that the rental income, is based on approximately a 65-35 split. That's what we're talking about. So that's the only thing we're all struggling with here. We didn't, and I said that right in the thing. We agreed to the 65-35, granted, because that is the market. So we're convinced that that's where we're going to end up. And, it's like you give any approval, you give it thinking based on your experience, based on everything, that's going to be applicable and that we're going to be able to meet those criteria. We think we're going to meet those criteria. And if we can't, we have as much incentive as you do to enforce and ensure that these are transient. And it'll be built into every agreement we have with these people. The subground lease, the leasehold restrictions, covenant, every document we have describes that these need to be transient and in the rental program when not used and cannot be a primary residence, which is that's not an ambiguous term. That's an IRS term.
Building code and zoning do not recognize IRS terms. Now, you know that.
Okay, well,
I understand what you've been saying. You've been making that argument over and over again.
Michael, but you asked me, give me a legal definition. Where's your legal definition?
Our code does not ask for a legal definition. Please read our code. Michael, where there's word usage, Tad first has to look at building code for word usage, then she has to go to Merriam-Webster. We don't go to IRS. That is not envisioned in the code. I'm just saying, you can keep throwing that back at me, but I'm going to throw it right back at you because it's not relevant.
Come on, I'm not fighting with you.
I understand. I think what you're trying to say is that because you're going to be building 65, 35, and everything else, that it's going to somehow work out. So if it's a zoning change, as you're proposing, I still don't think you've given us enough information. There should be a narrative accompanying it when you're talking about changing a section of code for a district, of how it advances the purpose of the district in and of itself.
The petition, Michael,
is this expanding the educational use?
Plan that's consistent with the comp plan.
It says it's consistent with it. It says it's consistent with it. Is it consistent with increasing the educational effectiveness of the institution? If you read the actual section of St. Andrew's code, which is listed,
it talks about the code, the comprehensive. They talk about the SAD as educational and economic.
That's the comp plan. I'm talking about the zoning. It has to be consistent with the zoning too, Michael. Read the St. Andrews. Go ahead and read that one. Does someone have
Michael, the code provides for this. When you say consistent with the code,
I'm just asking you for an analysis that proves it. I'm not saying you have to do it right now.
The only thing we haven't given you that you've asked for, if you read the petition, which I'm sure you did because you read everything, we did go back to the comp plan. We looked at all the zoning. We looked at the history of it, the objectives. The only thing we haven't given you is the question you asked. Does this, if for whatever reason, this maybe, because to be honest with you, I don't even know if 35% would have triggered this occupancy tax per se. That's the only bit of information that changes that you've asked for that we haven't provided you.
The occupancy tax is 30, it doesn't apply if it's more than 30 days, but it would have guaranteed that for the other 65% of the time, there was an occupancy tax.
If you're saying, Victoria, and you know this better than I do, if these units are used 40% of the time by the owner, and the other 60% of the time they're rented.
Transient, less than 30 days.
Rented transient, 60% of the time. The occupancy tax cannot be charged on those as part of the rental, the hotel occupancy tax, because instead of using it, owner 35, they're using
the
40%?
hotel occupancy tax gets charged on stays less than 30 days. It doesn't get charged on stays longer than 30 days.
Okay. So the point is, that's what we're doing, what we're changing, doesn't affect that at all, because we didn't even have a 30-day
No, it
number
sort of does.
in
There was
our-
a guarantee previously that it would be for rent transient 65% of the time, and now there's no minimum guarantee. But again, this is not really an issue for the planning board, it's an issue for the town board when contemplating the impacts of this change.
Well, you're saying, I think what you're saying is, look, if it gets rented less times, and if it's getting rented less, it's going to create less occupancy tax.
Correct.
And we don't think, that's what I'm saying, I mean, we keep going in a circle, we don't believe this is going to change the pattern. We don't want it to change the pattern. We're not counting on it changing the pattern. The only thing is the lenders won't allow us to include it as a mandate. We do believe, and I think we've tried to elaborate in that respect and concede, and it'll be in all our agreements, that we believe that 65-35 is what the market in the hospitality reflect, that will be where we'll end up, and it should be the same. We don't, and that's why I keep coming back to the thing is, we don't intend to change the use, the structure, the transient nature of these. We're just trying to find a way, we just can't keep that provision in, and we tried to add a couple of provisions to try to ensure from a legal that it can't be a primary residence, that it has to be in the rental program, all those things to ensure that it will be used for the transient purposes that you've intended, the zoning requires, and we intend them to be. I don't know what else to say.
Dylan, do you have any other comments?
I do.
Right now, is it going to do, Rob?
Well, my thing is, in no way was I suggesting that you guys are not honorable and your intentions aren't honorable. It's not about you. It's about other bad actors or other people outside that see this as something and then they expand on it. And then where does it stop? So it's just a protection. That's all. That was always my thing. I have no issue with what technically what's being suggested. It's just it hasn't been formulated all the different avenues of how it could be maybe exposed or expanded on by other people.
So
and I understand the SAD district because I read it and I understand what that is. But and that's why in some of my, I think my notes or something, maybe even what I wrote, it needs to be specific, very specific in how that is written, because if it isn't, somebody's going to take it and run with it. I know it.
And Rob, it's one of the reasons that I opened up with that we agreed to make some of the changes that Bonnie suggested, because she did suggest there were ways that we were addressing it that might open it up as well as create a possible new quote-unquote allowable use. So, and that is why we also just modified that section, didn't modify lodging facilities, definition of lodging facilities, because it fits within that. And we have the same thing. And if you can recommend this, we're not asking, we're pleading, to be blunt, perfectly blunt. And you want to put in your recommendation, have them address the issue of what happens if there's a corporation that, takes it. How does that's fair. We'll go back and talk about that and some more and, make sure we've considered that more. But otherwise, we've tried to consider every point that was raised.
So I'm not that concerned about it expanding. This particular use is part of the St. Andrews, but I think there wasn't an evaluation of the other lot in the St. Andrews district.
Right.
They inadvertently created a new conference center use, which isn't defined and does have implications throughout the town. So there are ways to address the wordsmithing, but as Mr. Tuttle said earlier, the first question is, have they showed us, is this something the town wants to do, and have they proven that this fits within the board's existing seeker review, or have they given enough information for the board to make a new seeker recommendation?
Thank you. Ann?
This is way above my pay grade, but, when we have modified zoning, and I've been involved in some of the major rezoning, it takes a long time. This is a small piece, but you still have to see how it fits within the context of, it's very hard to do it quickly. But, I appreciate the discussion, I understand. When your financial partners looked at that one piece and said, wow, no, did they then say, if it said this, we'd be fine with it?
So I think where this is coming from, right, I think this boils down to an enforcement issue from a lender's perspective and generally from a community perspective. I think that if you think 65-35, how do you enforce it, or you think the general termination of transient versus non-transient, how do you enforce it? So if somebody's coming in to take over and assume a responsibility, how do they enforce a certain threshold? And that lies really the crux of the issue. So my question to you is this an enforcement issue, right? Or is this a generalization issue?
So as far as enforcement, I mean, in general, we don't have police force going out and enforcing any of the zoning. We don't enforce that it's a single-family home. These things are never an issue until they become an issue.
Right.
So that is why we're having the discussion, not so that someone can be breathing down your throat, checking everything right now, but when a problem does arise, that we have the mechanism to control it.
Right, but is it a transient issue, right? Is it an enforcement of based on transient, right? And that definition takes on many forms and fashions, or is it a specific number that has been proffered?
Right now, it's an issue of your use not being allowed in the district and not being able to get approval. So it's all stemming from the fact that if single-family homes were allowed in this district, we wouldn't be have had any of this discussion. It's all stemming from the fact that the only allowable use is lodging facility. And so they're trying to fit something, zoning doesn't keep up with trends in marketing and in hospitality. So we're trying to fit what you're proposing into the lodging facility umbrella, but it's not fitting neatly. And so that's why they came up with parameters to help squeeze it under that umbrella. But without the parameters, how far out does it spread? And that's what this discussion is about. It's philosophical.
It's also, what Ann asked, because I wrote it down, is it's a small piece of zoning, but it still needs an analysis to understand what it affects other districts. No one on your side is answering that. Lodging facilities, when you change sort of the definition of the rooms, whatever, any lodging facility in other districts is also going to claim to want the same thing. We just need to understand, again, for me to make a recommendation to the town board, if they want to write up something separate, they can, or one of them can, and I'll just vote against it if I don't think it's what it needs to be going to the town board. But for me to do that, I need to have look, no offense, I'm just going to say it now. This is a slapdash effort. You got it done quickly because you saw the condition, you didn't object that night, and you wanted to get it done fast. I get that. You're under extreme pressure. But doing it fast sometimes for a zoning change, to me, is not the right way to go. It really does need a better analysis. That's the sort of gist of the letter I'm sending to the town board, or that I was hoping to send to the town board. If they want us to modify it, we can discuss that tonight as well. But it's not just enforcement, because it's a way for us to permit your change by having this, again, parameter, for us to permit it and say, well, it still stays transient. It's not so much that we're going to go in there and say we need to subpoena your records. That's not going to happen because we don't have the ability as a town to do that. But and again, if we make this change, does that impact other areas where lodging facilities are allowed? That's all. Because it could.
How far out do other lodging facilities extend the definition? And so I think, there are ways to reword this, to call it its own use in St. Andrews District, resort villa lodging or something, and then that has its own permitted uses in certain places and not in other places.
And Dylan's response to me when I asked for opinions individually, Dylan had seized upon what you suggested there of, changing the definition of something just for this district.
Yeah.
And that's zoning.
It's cleaner.
It's cleaner.
Adding a quarter.
But I didn't add that because that's not the purpose of the recommendation. The town board was just wanting us to say, should we do it or not? And I'm not going to say, condition it on use this, or this, because that should be something that the applicant comes up with as a revised language as well, if that's what's necessary. And they can take yours, use yours.
Michael, so people keep saying that we're creating something new. The definition of lodging facility is any hotel, motel, inn, or other establishment providing other establishment providing sleeping accommodations for transient paying guests. You found both under that definition, and I think on a practical basis, what we were creating within the SAD, that these leasehold villas meet that criteria.
As described with the 6535 in the EAF.
Yes, the 6535 came when we all were deciding how we think that will get manifested. We continue to say, we think we're going to
Wait, that's not the discussion. It wasn't an agreement as to how you think it'll be manifested.
No.
It was a bright line. It was a hard line. It's what got Tad to agree that this was transient.
You know, up to the last day, on my drive up here, we still were debating what that meant, because we thought all along it meant that they would be available for 65% of the time, but if people weren't renting it for those times, the owner could use it. When I was driving up on the resolution, and you insisted, no, that isn't the interpretation you were functioning under, that it was the owner can only occupy for 35% of the time, even if it was available for rental and no one was renting it. It had to stay vacant. And so we were still trying to get our arms around it. And you were right. I said to you, Michael, I think that's really going to be an issue. But you said, that's the way it's going to be, Mike. That's where we come out on it. And I said, okay, then, well, let's just go. We need to move this process. It ended up that the lenders said, either way, it's not something.
So let me ask another question.
Fund.
These lenders are lenders for what? For constructing the site? This is a construction loan the lenders are talking about, or are these lenders for the individuals to buy the houses? Are these? And you think that people who can afford a $4 million house are going to take out a mortgage?
Some may, some may not.
With the interest rates the way they are right now?
Some may not. I'm selling this type of product in a different resort environment, and people are taking out mortgages.
So let me ask again then let me go on, back to Ann. I'm sorry,
No,
Ann interrupted.
I really didn't have much more to add.
Chris?
You see, Michael, we still believe that's going to be, I'll say it again, we're not changing anything in the zoning. If you wanted to say, look, we won't add this 6535, that's a criteria that wasn't in the zoning. You want to leave the zoning as is and just take out that provision, that it must be 6535, that's fine too.
Of course it would be fine for you.
Well, but Michael, that's what the zoning says.
The zoning says transient, Michael. I'm tired of arguing with you on this. I really am.
But you don't have a
this is not
transient. It's less than 30 days.
We have an interpretation now.
Right. There is, Chris, you said there is a criteria for
because then
30 consecutive days. We didn't think, frankly, you wanted that, because a 30 consecutive day is an owner gets in there. They use it for 30 days. That's 29 days. They leave for a day or two, and they come back for another 29 days.
But then they're still getting the occupancy tax.
And you would have been giving, well, they're going to get the occupancy taxes. Any consideration. I don't think that's the issue that you care about.
No, I think
you care about whether they're going to be used as a residential housing. And I didn't want to sit here and try to defend to you that a 30-day consecutive was going to make these transient, because I knew that was your issue. And I respected that. That was your zoning. That's what we had to deal with. And these, the part about it that I hope you all understand, and I think you understand, and why you got to where you got to, is these units, these villas are being built as part of a resort. as, these are not, we're building a subdivision next to a resort. We have no HOA. There's no separate governance for these things. They're under the complete control of the resort. The leasehold declaration says you can build the building. We'll give you the building. It's not going to be fee simple. We'll show you where the building is going to be, and you can do nothing else. You can't disturb even the rest of your lot, because we have something we're trying to create as part of the resort. And if you occupy one of these things, you have to be a member of the resort. You pay an annual fee. We will maintain the landscaping. We will maintain the infrastructure. We will build the infrastructure. You know, these are part of a resort. They really are not. I mean, these are not going to be a residential subdivision. And I understand you're saying, yeah, but it's not just you. We got to think about the larger town and its ramifications. I think that's where the fact that the sand is its own district, and has always been its own district, and has been a unique district that allowed an educational and a hotel and other sleeping accommodations for transient paying guests. That's what these are going to be. And the only thing we're talking about is whether we're right, we're going to have a 65-35, and they're not going to be primary residences, and da-da-da-da, and it will conform with your zoning, or do we have to absolutely have the 65-35 mandate in there for you to feel comfortable?
So, Michael,
and if you do that, we don't have.
You're arguing that it falls under other types of accommodations under a lodging facility. But if that really were the case, you wouldn't need the zoning amendment. You'd be before the zoning board arguing that what you're proposing falls under that and is transient housing. So this is something that can't be transient under a lodging facility. You're carving out something else, and I think it's cleaner if you just own that, and we give it its own definition.
But why? You've already got. We've just spent 2 years here. We got to the point where we didn't have to create something new.
Because you're not.
You accepted the concept as part of our project,
but you're changing it now.
That we're changing an interpretation that's not in the code, and we're not changing, Chris, the fact that we do believe
interpretations aren't in any zoning codes. Interpretations are not in zoning codes. That's why ambiguous language is interpreted in the first place.
If you're disagreeing with the interpretation, then to Victoria's point, the place to go would be to the zoning board to get, to basically say, can we get you to, do you agree with Tad's interpretation or not?
No, but we don't disagree with, we think it will be 65-35, but just asking that this not be
whether you think it will or not, it's no longer it's no longer written down, right?
We're asking it not be a condition.
Right, so
that's really not a that's not something we can say to the ZBA. We don't disagree with the interpretation that we think we're going to hit 65-35.
That
we would be going to
that's not the question.
We'd be going to the ZBA saying we want this condition taken out because it's not.
No. You can't get them to take it out. And besides that, that's not the interpretation that you think you're going to hit 65-35. The interpretation was that 35 would be the max. That's what Tad assumed.
Right. And you are now saying that that 35% wouldn't be the max, right? You think it's what it will be, but it wouldn't be the max. And so you would need, in that case, to go to the zoning board and say, here's what we think transient means. We think transient means not a primary residence or something like that, and see if you can get them to agree with you instead of with Tad. But that's not what you're asking. Like, that's one route you could have taken.
Or we could have went for the zoning.
And so instead you're going for the zoning, and to Victoria's point, instead of trying to massage this existing use and create something that's essentially a new use that's not defined in the code, just embrace that, create a new use, define it in the code, apply it to the St. Andrews district, and be done with it.
It's clean.
But I think from your point of view, we'd be having the same discussion. In other words,
And support your application with an EAF and the data to show that there's no change. I mean, any zoning change has to have secret review.
Victor, I'm following Dylan's logic.
Yeah.
We create this new definition of a resort.
What was the term?
Villa resort.
Villa
Resort
in the
villa.
SAD district.
Yes.
And you would, and it would have to be, I assume, a transient.
No.
No.
It doesn't, it doesn't necessarily need to be transient if it's a new use.
Correct.
If you're not trying to smush it into lodging, which is transient.
Lodging is, a lodging facility is defined as transient in the code. So you need to be transient because you're a lodging facility. If you create a new use and apply it to these units, then it doesn't have that transient word in the definition anymore.
So
we're not talking about it.
what if you were to say then, as your recommendation, we have no problem with the concept of these units as part of this project. We don't care if this board feels what percentage of the time they're occupied and not occupied. Because that's what you'd have to be saying, or we're back to where we are. We're back to the 65-35.
I put together a draft definition of what this could be.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Interested.
You could add a use, lodging facility leasehold unit, something like that, and define it as something like a separate dwelling unit on the same lot as a lodging facility, but under separate ownership through a leasehold agreement, and rented for transient use by the lodging facility when not occupied by the leaseholder. Lodging facility leasehold units may not be the primary residence of the leaseholder.
I would maybe add it's an accessory,
it's a draft.
accessory to the lodging facility use.
Okay, sure, right. Yep.
You know what?
There we go.
Make that recommendation. I have.
So
What you just, you didn't, it's not that different, you just took the words, put it.
No, it's different.
A little bit of.
It's different.
Very different. It is and it isn't. It gets back to the same point.
Oh, there we go. I like that. It is and it isn't.
Right, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the
It
whole point.
confirms the transient nature.
Well, if it's not any
of
different, let's just, if it's not
villas.
any different, let's just stick with yours then.
If you want to stick with ours and say we recommend, we're
No, we're
fine
not
with this,
recommending-
I know you don't want to
recommending
do
yours.
that, so
At
I'm
least I'm voting
saying,
against it. Put it that way.
I'm saying, Michael, I'm saying, I don't have a problem with that.
I'm sure you
But I'm
don't.
saying it's,
I'm sure you don't.
Where you need to be.
Here's what I'm going to say, though.
so I'm saying, make that recommendation.
We still need to have an analysis on it.
Yes. The second
Sounds
piece
good.
is I think there is
But-
a good number of us on the board who don't think that the analysis that was.
But what, so tell me, tell me what additional tangible analysis are we looking at?
The analysis that you provided was narrowly tailored to the particular project and potential impacts of this change on the particular project. I agree, okay, it's only in the SAD district, but there are other parcels, including one that could be redeveloped, that's not part of the CIA campus.
Right.
And at a minimum,
Could then-
a seeker analysis would need to entertain the idea that a similar proposal could happen on any other parcel where it would be permitted. So there's just some additional analysis that needs to be in there.
All right,
Also-
save that,
also,
I'll do that,
if it's
we'll
not-
do that additional analysis for the town board.
If it's not transient, if it's, explicitly not transient, we're not pretending it's transient, you need to consider community-wide impacts. Maybe there are none because you have so many amenities on the property, but it's something that needs to be addressed.
I'm sorry,
School
what kind of
children.
community-wide impact?
Right.
Michael, I'm sorry, but we're not going to do the work for you.
Well, Michael-
You need to be doing some of this yourself.
Just asking questions
Yeah.
to get guidance.
He knows what community-wide impacts are, on aesthetic resource, recreational resources, et cetera. This is kind of a pro forma thing that is done all the time.
What I'm trying to walk away with here is clear direction so we can get to a conclusion.
The clear direction is that you need
Let me
to,
finish. What we've done since the beginning, we have not changed this program. This program and this residential remains the same, unchanged. They're going to be part of the management program. They're going to, let me finish.
you're reiterating what you've already
Let
said,
me
Brent.
finish. They're going to have a higher annual cost than the average residential facility. What would mandate them to be part of the rental program and offset that cost? I've seen that in various resorts that we've been part of and other resorts. They're designed as such, as I've said at the very beginning, right? The upstairs, to Michael's point, is designed under a commercial use. The bedrooms are smaller, the closets are smaller. It's not meant for a permanent residence. None of that has changed. We have been faced with arguably a last-minute roadblock that we're trying to work around. So at this stage of a project, where we thought we had preliminary site plan approval, we pleaded in front of the board to do a tree cutting so we could expedite this process and not have something that's arguably unattractive along US 9 for an extended period of time, and trying to work through it efficiently and quickly. And in order to do that, we need clear direction from you. I think you gave us a very clear suggestion on how to word it, which, if you're willing to share that with that, and take Victoria's additional amendment, we can work with that. But this remaining part of saying we need to do additional analysis, that's the clarification. Okay, fine, if we need to do additional analysis to satisfy the board and get a path forward, that's what we're looking for. I don't want to sit here and say,
Read the letter that I prepared. Hire like a planner.
It talks about what you need to do.
I did read your letter.
It talks about what you need to do.
But we're sitting here at a different stage tonight with the direction of what we could possibly do, wherein we have not changed any of the use outcomes operationally. Well, that's what they want you to demonstrate. They're asking for you, as if you were coming in with a real zoning, a zoning change out of the blue. You come in with your package saying, these are the reports supporting what we've done.
Functionally, which is the reality of the situation, hasn't changed.
But you need to demonstrate that to the board members. That's what they're asking you to demonstrate.
Fine. We'll demonstrate. We'll put out the information we've already done on what this is going to impact in terms of the community. Nothing has changed.
You also have to look at, because there's no enforcement for 6535, when we're talking about community-wide impacts, you should look at, if someone stayed there longer, would they be using our parks, stuff like that. Also, you haven't, you have not, let me finish now. You have not addressed the rest of the parcel, and the parcels in the CIA, they're not owned by the CIA, but they're in the SAD district. That should also be addressed.
So that should be addressed under
potential impacts of this change. So right now, for instance, as it's drafted, what you proposed, they don't have to be located on the same lot. So would this other lot have been induced to now have all of these condo timeshare units on it? But maybe under a different definition, it does have to be on the same lot, so maybe you don't have to analyze that. But as you've proposed it, it's missing that sort of analysis.
All right, look, we'll talk offline, and look, when I do modifications, I understand what a technical memorandum is under secret, to show that there are no new significant impacts that haven't been previously studied, thus not requiring supplementation. I understand the concept. I just trying to get some guidance.
You also have to amend the FEAF as well.
Huh?
You have to amend the FEAF that we rely on as well.
Can we just talk procedure for a sec?
That's not going to be me. That's really going to be Victoria and Todd, I think.
Cutting my head off here.
I don't know what the procedure is.
All right. I got it. You're going to make a recommendation to the town board?
We'll see.
This is the problem. We're not going to recommend. You need to reapply to the town board with the definition that's therein. That should be referred to us back then again, along with your technical memo. I know you're not liking the dates, but you think that we're going to recommend, I'm going to write a new petition for you?
Right, well, we can't recommend something off the cuff, right? I'm sure, Dylan, your language is great, but think about it.
Yeah, it's an idea.
But isn't the recommendation, isn't the recommendation, we have no problem with the concept?
I'm not going to write that. No.
However, we think it should be drafted differently, and we think the town board should require...
I'm not going to say we don't have a problem until you have your technical memo. You should understand that.
But isn't this very different? So we walked through 3 scenarios, right? We can modify the zoning, we can modify the resolution, we can create a new use. So we've taken through
Well,
the
the new
three.
use is the zoning.
Yeah.
Well, right, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's slightly different.
Yes.
From a different approach.
Correct.
And so it's different. It's a,
Different zoning.
we're going at it from a different direction, so I believe that you would need to reapply to the town board because it is a different request.
Or modify your petition.
My
Right,
recommendation
modify,
can be, we think
modify.
that there's a better way to accomplish what they're seeking to
But
accomplish.
it seems cleaner. I mean, just at the outset, it seems cleaner. It seems to be isolated to this district. The definition is, looks pretty good, but.
Obviously, subject to review, I thought what you were saying is making an amendment with the suggested language.
Correct. That, the idea would be you would propose a zoning amendment for a new use. He was suggesting some potential
I
language.
suggested some potential language, but it's on you to write. So-
Yeah.
But I
Fine tune it.
quick enough. I thought you did that. Yes, we'll perhaps tweak it, but I thought it was a good approach. Yes, I'm
So-
trying to, Michael, I
Wait.
am trying to find a way per Brent's thing to see how we can make this most efficient time-wise.
Let's
I
just
am
continue
looking for that.
to talk about that. Once the zoning amendment, if the town board does adopt one that allows the project without any kind of time limitation, you do need to come back to the planning board at that point, because your site plan approval is going to have to be amended to approve whatever the new use is and remove the condition.
Well, under the way we have it now, there's not a new use. What I have to come back to you for is an amendment of the resolution to eliminate condition 6.
I think we're disagreeing about the new use. The lodging facility that would apparently violate what Tad's interpretation of transient inn would be a new use.
Yeah, I think it creates a new use, but it's just not with a title and a heading, and I think it creates some ambiguity for other parts of the code.
But it wasn't a new use before. It's now a new use that you're saying because
You've
65,
The word
exceeded
transient. Transient is the.
Transient's in your code.
It is a new use as you're proposing it, because Tad, one more time, Tad made an interpretation of what transient means. You're violating that.
Yes.
So with your new text change, you're basically saying it doesn't have to be 65-35. We're okay,
Yeah.
I think, with that, from what I'm hearing from the board.
Yes.
But it still violates her interpretation of it. So that creates essentially a new use. That's what you're proposing.
So,
It sounds like the board is
So-
okay with conceptually a change to accommodate the project, but not in the manner you've proposed.
can the board, Michael's all I'm asking is, can the board say that? You're saying that to us, can you say that to the town board? What we will do, if you say that to the town board, we will modify.
Now, they're going to want to
our
see what your
petition.
change is again.
What?
They're going to want to see the change and comment on it.
But I think what he's asking is, can Michael make a recommendation with, I'm going to disclaim it, Dylan's language of change in use? The board is generally, again, I'm talking generalities right here, generally the board is okay with this. They're okay with the
That gets to our,
They're okay with,
Not without the zoning technical memo. They still didn't have enough information in the first instance. So
it gets to our second request, which is that I'm not comfortable making that suggestion without seeing a proper technical memo.
so let me, sorry, Michael, so let me take it a step further.
Could you please use your microphone?
So, are you okay with, I'm trying to get this clear in my mind, are you okay with making the recommendation, utilizing the language that you suggested, subject to the technical?
the board's not going to do that tonight.
No,
Because
I'm trying to get this clear in my head. I'm not asking you to make a motion or
Well, yeah,
whatever,
but-
maybe.
It can't be subject to a technical memo if we disagree with the technical memo. We need
I'm
the
trying to
technical memo
understand the
to
process.
rely on how we feel about.
So let me re-ask my question
recommendation.
in a different way. If I give you a technical memo and you agree to the technical memo, you guys,
and the new language.
which
Right.
is what you guys are going to potentially proffer.
You're going to provide it,
No,
Yeah.
You provide it to us.
but based on his.
Based on your guidance, that's what you're asking.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, Victoria can speak to this, but the process would be that you should be going back to the town board with a new proposal. that includes a technical memo, revised language on the zoning change, and then they would re-refer that to us, and we would provide comment.
And then we could vote.
review it and
vote.
And we're not allowed to tell you that we're going to say, yes, it's hunky-dory, because we can't tell you how we're going to vote in advance.
Right.
And you
I'm
don't
just
know
saying.
until you review the information.
Right.
Correct, that's what I'm saying. So we would still need to review it, and then for procedure, we make a recommendation that's positive, theoretically, it goes to the town board. They were going to set a public hearing on this, I believe, already, but if it's going to be on a different
What I'm trying to do, Michael,
language.
is there any way we can skip the second referral is what I'm trying to do. In other words, if you provide them your referral based on what you've said tonight, we go back.
Wait, we're not going to provide the language for
It
you.
would, yeah.
You
They're
can-
not.
We can't vote on language that we provided and gave to you, you know that.
You can, in your referral, you can say, we did propose, you don't even have to give the language. You can say, we did suggest that they come up with another use. We gave them an example. I would like the language, but if you against it, we gave them, we're not against the concept of creating a new that doesn't have a transient, so forth. We suggest that before you vote, town board, you get a technical memo from them showing that you're
We need the technical memo, we're the lead agency. They're going to be I think they're relying on us to do seeker more or less on this.
Well, let's talk about that. You're not taking this action.
Nope.
So they're an involved agency.
They could take over the seeker
Yep.
review if they chose to do that.
Then I got intent to be lead agency, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah.
Because-
Yep.
Yeah, I'm back into like another.
So,
If
look,
they're an
look,
involved
it's getting
agency,
late.
they have
It's-
to do their own secret review.
Yes, it's
So-
getting late. So I think you're hearing from the board that they're not going to recommend approval of what you've written at this time. So let's talk about any modifications based on the discussion tonight. Because if you don't get back to the town board at all, it's deemed approved or positive.
Right.
So what is it that you want to tell the town board? And do you want to change anything that in light of this discussion to tell them?
It can be a much shorter letter, basically saying that after discussion, that we believe that there's an alternate path.
Yes.
Yes.
Language was suggested.
Right, yep.
And that we will also need a technical memo to make sure that we understand all the seeker impacts of the new language as proposed, or as to be proposed. And then we will then wait and have a recommendation on a second referral, which is what Michael doesn't want. But I can't make language saying do something that we haven't seen yet.
Well,
That's the law anyways. I
was gonna say, you can't break the law.
The local law procedure requires that there be a referral of whatever.
Oh, that's right.
Actually, in fact, there was not even a local law sent to you in the first place. So we would have to have a local law sent to you that you could comment on. So I know you want to shortcut the process, but in the end, I don't think that's a great idea because it's.
It might
It
create
opens
other delays.
them up, I mean, it's.
Other delays.
Article 78.
The town board doesn't.
It needs to go back to county planning. Did you ever get a response from county planning on this? Nothing?
Not that I'm
Was it
aware. I
referred?
didn't get anything unless the
It was
town board
referred.
got it. They didn't forward it. Town board next meets September,
No, they may, this coming Monday.
after this Monday. See, they're scheduled to do, Michael, a public hearing on this on Monday. They were hoping to have your recommendation in hand. They're not allowed to hold a public hearing until they have a recommendation from you.
Well, they'll have it.
They'll have a recommendation.
Yeah, I know that. Bill, that's where I was going the whole time. But the fact is that I think they're not going to be able to hold the public, they won't hold the public, we wouldn't want them to hold a public hearing on a amendment that,
Well, they'll have to they've set it, right? I mean, they've set the public hearing.
No, they're setting it.
Oh, they're setting it, okay.
Yeah.
okay, look, I think, go ahead, Michael, Victoria, you're going to get back to him, we appreciate if you get back to him before Monday, because that's when they're,
Right.
I think that's.
Generally speaking, is everyone okay with me writing more or less what I said that?
Yes.
Yes,
you're
an
a
alternate
wordsmith.
path.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you say,
We
Michael?
should do a
Could you say it
motion for
again?
that.
Sorry.
Motion to
Yes.
authorize chairman to send.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Who made the motion? Chris?
Chris,
Thank you.
I second it.
So the letter will read something along the way that after discussion at our last meeting, we believe that the
Extensive.
applicant's interests, or the, I have to wordsmith it, but it's something about, there were no issues raised with the technical aspects of what you're proposing to remove this, but there's a better path forward on it that we believe, but we're still waiting, before we make a final recommendation, we're waiting to see a local law of this and the new languages you're going to propose. And by the way, the meetings are recorded and they're on channel 22, they're on the TV, they're on our website. You can just listen to what he read and get all the words. Hint, hint.
I was going to say that too.
That way he's not emailing them to you.
Did they vote on that motion?
Dylan,
Wait,
what
need a
minute
vote.
is the?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Because he was
All in
doing a
favor?
little, he was doing a
Yeah.
little summary of what he might
Oh, I
write.
know.
He did.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
All right.
So we'll get a recommendation out, but you guys have got some work to do too, and you really can listen to, just go to the end of the meeting and hit reverse.
Do I have permission to speak to Dylan, maybe get some of his thoughts on that?
Ask Victoria,
language?
ask Victoria.
No, you're going to just send it to me. But I think you heard what he said, and anyways, once we think about it, we may have more comments. on it.
Absolutely.
So-
Right.
Yeah, you shouldn't, I'm not a lawyer and you shouldn't take it
All right,
verbatim.
all
I was gonna say,
He doesn't even play one on TV, so.
Can we speak about the sequence?
Not tonight, though, please.
Not tonight, tomorrow.
Wait, we still have other business to do.
Yes, we do.
Thanks, guys.
Yes,
We're moving forward,
You
okay.
dropped your pen, Michael.
Let's go back.
I was gonna say we have to go back.
Sorry, the next item on the agenda
Hyde Park Antique Center.
is, thank you, Hyde Park Antique Center. The applicants are not here tonight. I think you've all seen that they're proposing to do new lighting, new landscaping.
And then they updated it.
Can't hear what's going on here.
I'm sorry, so the applicants are seeking approval for new landscaping and new lighting. There was a lot of discussion, and when I finally talked to the applicant today, what happened is Tad and Cynthia were looking, and what's listed on the call-out sheets for the building, like spec sheets, showed 7 new lights, fixtures, that's it. And on the pictures, the renderings that accompanied it, you could see about 11 or 12. So when I talked to him, he said, "Oh, we didn't update the renderings." Hello. So they also were under the misapprehension, I'll call it, that you guys recommended the lighting of the small trees from that big monopole. I said, I think the board would be concerned because we don't see the foot candles, and if it's going to be 3 lights on tall to go that far to hit a tree is going to be pretty bright. He said, well, we didn't really want to do that anyway. Okay. So what they're proposing now is the same bollards that are used by the sake manufacturer. They would use those around the pool. And I said, so why were you lighting the trees in the pond? And he said, well, we don't want anybody backing up into the pond. I said, I lived here 31 years. I haven't heard that yet, but you know what? Safety is always a good thing to do.
But it's such a
It is.
popular place that
And it is
they
a
have a
popular
lot of
place.
traffic, so
They're doing
why not?
a gang up business since they got nicer.
Aren't there some big rocks too?
Yeah, but car could slip through that, so at any rate, so they sent all the new information in to Cynthia. Cynthia revised the resolution based on what
Yeah.
they're actually proposing.
Yeah.
Again, did I bring it? Wait, I thought I did. Sorry.
What?
Do you have a copy of what they showed on this, by chance, Cynthia?
I have a copy of the whole thing.
Yeah, they did a very elaborate report
Oh,
on
right,
it
yep.
with pictures, but
Yep.
here as well, I'll show you, you can see. So this shows now just these. And the pictures beforehand, and that would accompany this, had lights everywhere.
Yes.
So that's, anyway, they submitted everything, we have specs for what they're proposing, et cetera. Yeah, if anybody wants to take a look at it, we can take a look. This is the newest material that came in today. Anybody have any other questions?
No.
Okay, Mr. Tuttle, I believe this Resolution's yours.
Okay.
And you've heard, we don't read all the whereases.
Which one is this?
Just one's in bold.
This is for the Hyde Park Antique Center site plan waiver. Date August 7th, 2024, resolution number 2024-31. Whereas, therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the proposed changes as described in the request for a waiver of site plan received by the Planning Department on July 22nd, 2024.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is a site plan waiver for HVAC. The location is 8 Milford Avenue, which puts it into a scenic area of statewide significance. However, we have the recommendation for site plan waiver because it's a small mini split on the eastern wall. It's already next to an existing condenser. Does anyone have any questions on that one?
No.
That's mine.
That's yours, Mr. Waters.
Yes, Stephen Coleman, 8 Mulford Avenue, Statsburg, New York. Resolution 2024-32. Whereas a request for site plan waiver has been made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by Stephen Coleman for the installation of a mini-split HVAC on the property associated with a single-family home which requires a building permit, and whereas, therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives the site plan requirements for the proposed changes as described in the building permit received by the Building Department April 18th, 2024, and per the waiver request to the Planning Board dated June 12th, 2024.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
This brings me to the the last item on our agenda tonight is a recognition of the service of former board member Don Beef. I'll introduce this resolution, 24B, August 7th, 2024. Resolution of appreciation, Don Beef Jr. Whereas Don Beef Jr. has completed a year as a member of the Planning Board of the Town of Hyde Park after serving 5 years previously, and whereas during his tenure on the board, Mr. Beef served with distinction as a valued member of the Planning Board, and whereas Mr. Beef was always well informed about and involved in board deliberations and consistently provided sage counsel, and whereas Mr. Beef was intimately involved in reviews conducted by the Planning Board and made himself available to numerous non-quorum meetings with applicants to advance their applications, and whereas the Planning Board of the Town of Hyde Park wishes to express its appreciation to Mr. Beef for his unwavering and devoted service to residents, business, and property owners of Hyde Park, now therefore be it resolved that the Board hereby extends its appreciation to Don Beef Jr. for his distinguished service to the town and his commitment to improving the operations of its Planning Board.
Second, gladly.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Don.
Making a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Please say aye.
Please say aye.
Thank you. Thank you to the town board for permitting us to be in the new town hall, or at least the renovated town hall. And thank you to our media team for presenting this and having your own new media room. Good night.
Oh, your packet, yes. I'm sorry. Yeah.